Before we begin, allow your eyes to close, shutting out the faint glow of the world around you. Let your body sink deeply into the surface beneath you, feeling the gentle pull of gravity not as a weight, but as an embrace. It is a grounding force, holding you safe, holding you still. Notice the rhythm of your breathing. With every inhale, imagine you're drawing in the cool, quiet stillness of the night sky. With every exhale, release the tension of the day, letting it drift away like smoke into the ether. You're entering a sanctuary of the mind, a place where time slows down, stretching out into a calm, infinite horizon. There is no need to be anywhere else. There is no need to solve anything, to plan anything, or to remember anything. Here, in this space, you're simply a traveller of the imagination, a cosmic dreamer ready to ascend. Visualize the room around you fading away, dissolving into a soft, velvety darkness. It is not a scary darkness, but a comforting one, like a heavy, warm blanket pulled up to your chin on a cold winter's night. In this darkness, tiny pinpricks of light begin to emerge above you. One by one, they flicker into existence. Distant suns, ancient storytellers, guiding lights. You're floating now, weightless, untethered from the earth, drifting upward into the vast, silent cathedral of space. The silence here is profound. It is a silence that wraps around your thoughts and quiets them, a silence that hums with the vibration of existence itself. You are safe, you are calm, and you are ready to explore the wonders of our celestial neighbourhood, drifting slowly from one marvel to the next on a river of starlight. As you float in this suspended state of tranquility, turn your internal gaze toward the centre of our cosmic home. There, anchoring us in the void, burns the magnificent heart of our system. Picture a colossal sphere of glowing plasma, a perfect circle of radiant golden light. It is a silent roar of energy, a constant, steady presence that has watched over the planets for billions of years. Imagine feeling its warmth on your skin, not as a burning heat, but as a gentle, life-giving radiance that penetrates deep into your bones, warming you from the inside out. This great star creates a gravitational melody, a song of attraction that keeps every planet, every asteroid, and every comet dancing in a perfect, orderly rhythm. Think of the sheer magnitude of this light. It travels through the emptiness of space, crossing millions of miles of vacuum just to touch the face of the Earth, just to paint the dawn across your bedroom wall. In the core of this star, hydrogen atoms are dancing and merging in a process of nuclear fusion, creating energy that will eventually become sunlight. It is a process of creation that happens on a scale our minds can barely comprehend, yet here, in your dream state, it feels simple. It feels like a heartbeat. This star is the conductor of our solar symphony, holding 99% of the solar system's mass. Even as you sleep, it is there, burning steady and true, a lighthouse in the infinite dark, promising that morning will always come. Drifting slowly away from that intense golden warmth, we move toward the first planetary traveller in this celestial procession. It is a small world, swift and silent, darting through the glare of the sun. Visualize a landscape of stark, grey beauty, a sphere scarred by the history of the cosmos. This is a world of extremes, a place of deep shadows and blinding light, yet in your mind's eye, it is perfectly still. The surface here resembles our own moon, covered in craters and basins, each one a memory of an ancient impact, preserved forever in the vacuum. Because it has virtually no atmosphere to trap heat or distribute it, the side facing the sun is baked in searing temperatures, while the dark side is plunged into a freezing, eternal night. Imagine standing on the Terminator line, the twilight zone between the blistering day and the frozen dark. Here, the sky's perfectly black, even during the day, because there is no air to scatter the sunlight into blue. You look down at the dusty, rocky ground, ancient and untouched, This planet rushes around the Sun faster than any other, completing its year in a mere 88 Earth days. It is the messenger, the quick-footed runner of the void, yet to you, floating above it, it seems to hang suspended in the velvet black, a silent grey pearl basking in the overwhelming proximity of the star it circles so faithfully. We glide outward now, leaving the cratered grey world behind, drifting toward a brilliant beacon in the distance. Ahead lies a planet that shines with such intensity that it has been mistaken for a star by dreamers throughout history. As you approach, you do not see a surface of rock or ocean, but a seamless, swirling blanket of clouds. These clouds are a creamy, pale yellow, reflecting the sunlight with a mirror-like quality that makes this world the brightest object in our sky after the moon. It is a world wrapped in mystery, hidden beneath a thick, heavy atmosphere that hugs the planet tight. Visualize yourself descending slowly toward these clouds. They are thick and dense, creating a greenhouse effect that traps warmth, making this the hottest planet in our system, even hotter than the one closest to the Sun. But from your vantage point high above, it is simply a masterpiece of fluid dynamics. The atmosphere rotates with incredible speed, whipping around the planet in a super rotation that creates beautiful streaking patterns in the cloud tops. It is a world named for beauty and love, and though its surface is harsh and volcanic, its visage from space is one of serene elegance. It rotates backward compared to the other planets, a slow, deliberate pirouette that means on this world the sun rises in the west and sets in the east. It is a solitary, glowing gem, spinning slowly in its thick cocoon of mist. Moving further into the dark, a breathtaking sight emerges from the void. It is a vision of vibrant colour against the emptiness, a marble of swirling blue, white, and green. This is the water world, the oasis of life. From this distance, you cannot see cities or borders. You see only the organic flow of nature. You see the vast, deep blue of the oceans covering so much of the surface that the planet looks like a sapphire suspended in night. You see the white spirals of clouds drifting lazily over the hemispheres, carried by the winds of the world. Picture yourself floating high above the Pacific Ocean, the sun glinting off the water in a blinding dazzle of diamonds. You can feel the coolness of this world, a perfect balance, not too hot and not too cold. It is the Goldilocks zone, where water can flow and life can flourish. You can see the brown and green tapestries of the continents, the lungs of the planet breathing in and out with the seasons. It is the only place we know of where consciousness exists to look back at the universe. It feels fragile from here, a precious, delicate ornament protecting everything you have ever known. As it rotates, the line of shadow, the Terminator, moves across the land, bringing sleep to one half of the world while the other awakens. You're watching the collective slumber of humanity, a peaceful, rotating cradle in the cosmos, tethered to this blue world by an invisible string of gravity as a silent silver companion. We drift toward it now, the faithful watcher of the night. It is a desolate world of monochrome magnificence, a landscape of greys, whites, and charcoal blacks. As you float closer, you see the smooth, dark plains of ancient lava flows, the Maria, or seas, which early astronomers once thought were bodies of water. They are dry and silent now, vast flatlands of basalt contrasting with the rugged, cratered highlands. There is a profound stillness here that exists nowhere else. Footprints left in the fine, powdery dust. The regolith will remain unchanged for millions of years, as there is no wind to blow them away and no rain to wash them clean. This companion is locked in a tidal embrace with its parent planet, spinning on its axis at the exact same speed it orbits, so that it always shows the same face to the world below. It is a guardian, its gravity tugging gently at the oceans of the blue planet, creating the rhythmic rise and fall of the tides, a breathing motion of the sea that mirrors the breath in your own lungs. Imagine sitting on the edge of a crater, looking up into the inky black sky to see the Earth hanging there like a fragile blue lantern, a reversed view that brings a deep sense of connection and peace. Leaving the Earth and Moon behind, we drift outward to a place where the palette shifts to warm, rusty hues. Ahead lies the red planet, a world of dust and stone that has captivated imaginations for centuries. As you approach, the colour fills your vision, a rich ochre orange that comes from iron oxide, the same rust that forms on old metal, covering the entire surface in a blanket of coloured dust. It is a cold, desert world, dry and windswept, yet possessing a stark, haunting beauty. Visualize a canyon system stretching across the equator, so vast it would span the entire width of a continent back home. It is a deep scar in the crust, a testament to the planet's geological past. Towering above the horizon is a volcano 3 times the height of the tallest mountain on Earth, its shield sloping gently upward into the thin pinkish sky. The atmosphere here is thin and tenuous, composed mostly of carbon dioxide. Occasionally the winds pick up, lifting the fine red dust into the air, creating hazes that soften the sunlight and turn the sunsets into a ghostly blue. It is a world of waiting, a silent, frozen frontier that holds the secrets of ancient water in its dry riverbeds and polar ice caps. It feels lonely but dignified, a rusty jewel tumbling through the dark. Beyond the orbit of the red world, we enter a vast region of debris, a transition zone between the rocky inner worlds and the giants that lie ahead. This is a realm of millions of rocks, ranging from the size of a pebble to dwarf planets hundreds of miles across. In movies, this is often depicted as a crowded, chaotic field where rocks constantly crash into one another, but in reality the distance between them is immense. You could fly through this region for a lifetime and never see a single stone close up. Imagine yourself drifting alongside one of these ancient travellers. It is an irregular shape, a tumbling potato of rock and metal pitted with craters. It is a leftover brick from the construction of the solar system, a piece of the primal puzzle that never formed into a planet. It spins slowly, tumbling end over end in the silence. There is a sense of ancient history here. These rocks have been drifting in this dark river for 4.5 billion years, unchanged, untouched. They are the silent witnesses of the deep past, holding the mineral secrets of the early nebula. It is a peaceful place of solitude, a vast, sparse ring of debris circling the sun in a slow, eternal migration, dividing the solar system with a boundary of stone and silence. Emerging from the sparse field of rocks, we are met with a sight of overwhelming majesty. The King of Planets rises before us, colossal giant of gas and storm that defies all sense of scale. It is so massive that all the other planets could fit inside it with room to spare. There is no solid ground here, no place to land or stand. There is only atmosphere, getting denser and hotter the deeper you go. From your floating vantage point, the planet looks like a work of art painted in oil. Bands of clouds in shades of burnt orange, cream, white, and terracotta stretch horizontally across the globe. These bands are driven by fierce winds blowing in opposite directions, creating a mesmerizing pattern of stripes. Amongst these bands you see swirling eddies and storms, the largest of which is a great red eye, a storm that has been raging for hundreds of years, large enough to swallow the entire Earth. Yet from here, it looks peaceful, a slow-motion churning of gases. The planet spins incredibly fast for its size, bulging at the equator, a massive spinning top of hydrogen and helium. It radiates a powerful magnetic field, humming with energy, a protector that draws in comets and asteroids, shielding the inner worlds. It is a gas giant, a soft, billowing world of immense power and gravity. Drifting further into the cold reaches, we encounter perhaps the most beautiful object in the heavens. It is another giant, but this one is adorned with a crown of light. A pale gold sphere sits in the centre of a spectacular complex system of rings. These are not solid bands, but are made of billions of individual particles of ice and rock, ranging from grains of sugar to the size of houses. Imagine floating just above the plane of these rings. The sunlight reflects off the ice, making the rings sparkle and glitter like a highway of diamonds. They cast a shadow onto the planet's surface, and the planet casts a shadow back onto the rings, creating a dramatic play of light and dark. The rings are incredibly thin, barely a few dozen feet thick in places, yet they stretch out for thousands of miles. As you glide over them, you see the intricate gaps and divisions guided by tiny shepherd moons that keep the ice particles in line. The planet itself is a calm butterscotch yellow, hiding violent storms beneath a thick haze. It is a place of ethereal beauty, a celestial jewellery box opened for you to admire. The sight is hypnotic, the endless circling of the ice, the perfect geometry of the rings against the chaos of the stars, a vision of structure and elegance in the wild black ocean of space. We move now to the outer realms, where the sun is merely a bright star in the distance, and the warmth has faded to a deep, penetrating cold. Here drifts a mysterious world, an ice giant glowing with a serene pale blue-green light. This colour comes from the methane in its atmosphere, absorbing the red light of the distant sun and reflecting this cool cyan hue. It is a smooth, featureless ball of gas and ice, looking like a flawless aquamarine marble suspended in the void. This world is unique in its posture. It does not spin like a top, but rolls on its side, like a ball rolling along a circular track. Its poles face the sun directly, resulting in seasons that last for decades. 42 years of continuous sunlight followed by 42 years of total darkness. Imagine floating in the atmosphere of this tilted world. It is a place of strange geometries and magnetic fields that spiral and twist. It feels quiet here, far removed from the busy activity of the inner solar system. There is a sense of deep hibernation, a slow, cold slumber. It is surrounded by faint dark rings of its own, narrow and elusive, and a family of moons named after characters from literature, drifting in a chaotic dance around this toppled king. It is a world of stillness, of cold beauty, a lonely wanderer rolling eternally through the dark reaches of the outer rim. From the pale rolling slumber of that toppled ice giant, we allow the currents of gravity to pull us gently deeper into the obsidian abyss. We are moving toward the final sentinel of the main planetary family, a world of deep, intense mystery. As the cyan fade of the previous world dissolves behind us, a rich royal blue sphere emerges from the shadows. This is a world of vivid, saturated colour, resembling the deepest parts of the Earth's oceans where the sunlight can no longer reach. It is a sapphire suspended in the eternal night, cool and inviting in its vastness. Unlike the stillness of the vacuum around it, this planet is alive with invisible energy. Though it sits 30 times farther from the sun than the Earth, receiving only a tiny fraction of the warmth, it churns with an internal heat that defies explanation. Picture yourself floating in the upper atmosphere, surrounded by clouds of frozen methane that whip past at speeds faster than sound. These are the fiercest winds in the solar system, supersonic gales that encircle the planet in bands of dark and light blue. Yet, from your place of safety in the dreamscape, you do not feel the violence of the storm. You only perceive the flow. You see the great dark spot, a swirling vortex large enough to contain entire worlds, moving like a phantom eye across the planetary surface. It is a world discovered not by sight, but by mathematics, a presence felt before it was seen, ghostly and profound. It represents the limit of our naked vision, the point where reality blurs into calculation, a beautiful blue limit to the known world. Drifting past this azure giant, we cross an invisible threshold into the third zone of our system. The large dominant planets are behind us now, and we're entering the realm of the dwarfs, the icy remnants of creation. Out here, the sun is no longer a blinding disk, but an intensely bright star, a piercing point of light that provides more illumination than the full moon, yet offers little heat. In this twilight, we approach a small, rocky world that has captured the hearts of dreamers for nearly a century. As you draw closer, the surface of this distant wanderer reveals itself to be a complex tapestry of browns, whites, and oranges. The most striking feature catches your eye immediately: a vast, smooth plain of nitrogen ice shaped perfectly like a heart. It is a silent message of love etched onto the cold face of the cosmos. This glacier is alive in its own slow way, flowing like viscous glass over millions of years, erasing craters and smoothing the landscape. The atmosphere here is a fragile, hazy blue, a thin veil that freezes and falls to the ground as snow when the planet drifts too far from the sun. It is a lonely world, yet it is not alone. Locked in an eternal, spinning embrace with it is a moon so large that they orbit a point in the empty space between them. They face each other constantly, never turning away, performing a slow, waltzing pirouette that has lasted for billions of years. It is a dance of perfect balance in the deep freeze of space, a testament to connection even in the farthest reaches of isolation. We float outward, leaving the binary dances behind, and find ourselves drifting through a vast, expansive ring of silence. This is the Kuiper Belt, a donut-shaped frontier of icy bodies that stretches out into the darkness. Imagine a field of millions of sleeping worlds, ancient building blocks that were never used to construct the planets. They are the frozen fossils of the solar system's birth, preserved in a cosmic refrigerator. The distance between these objects is vast. There is no crowding here, only a profound sense of space. Occasionally you might drift past a worldlet made of rock and ice, its surface dark and reddish, coated in organic compounds that have reacted to the faint starlight over eons. Some are round, some are shaped like potatoes, and some, spinning rapidly, are stretched into elongated ovals. This is a quiet graveyard of potential, a reservoir of worlds that wait in the dark, moving with agonizing slowness around the distant center. To float here is to be in a state of suspended animation, where time loses its meaning. A single year for these objects can last hundreds of Earth years. It is a place of patience, where the chaotic energy of the inner solar system is forgotten, replaced by a stately frozen calm that stretches out for billions of miles. Among these frozen relics, there are those who do not stay put, travelers who feel the pull of the sun and begin a long, majestic dive toward the warmth. These are the comets, the nomads of the dark. Visualize one of these icy mountains as it begins its journey. For aeons it was a solid, silent rock, but as it falls closer to the sun, it begins to wake up. As the faint heat touches its surface, the ice begins to sublime, turning directly from solid to gas. A glowing atmosphere, the coma, forms around the nucleus, growing larger than a planet. Then, the solar wind catches this gas and dust, sweeping it back into a magnificent tail that stretches for millions of miles behind it. From your vantage point, it looks like a streak of white paint across the black canvas of the universe. It is a celestial fountain, shedding its mass to create beauty. You watch it arc gracefully through the system, a temporary visitor bringing news from the frozen edge. Some of these travelers will not return for thousands of years. Others are on a one-way trip destined to be flung out into the void forever. They are the storytellers of the system, connecting the cold, dark outer reaches with the fiery, vibrant center, leaving a trail of glittering dust in their wake. Dust that may one day streak across a planet's sky as a meteor shower, a fleeting memory of the comet's passage. Beyond the belt of ice and the paths of the comets, we drift into the true unknown, the spherical shell that encases our entire solar system. This is the Oort cloud, a theoretical sphere of icy objects that surrounds us like a thick protective bubble. It is incredibly distant, reaching almost halfway to the next star. Here, the sun is just the brightest star in the sky, indistinguishable from the others to the untrained eye. Imagine floating in this immense hollow sphere. It is the womb of the long-period comets, a vast reservoir containing trillions of icy bodies floating in the absolute dark. The gravity of the sun is so weak here that a passing star or the gentle tide of the Milky Way itself can nudge these objects, sending them falling inward or stripping them away entirely. It is the boundary line, the edge of the sun's dominion. It feels like the edge of a cliff overlooking a vast ocean of interstellar space. There is a profound sense of scale here that humbles the spirit. You're floating in the transition zone between home and the infinite, a place of quiet potentiality where the solar system fades into the galactic background. It is a shell of silence, guarding the inner warmth from the cold winds of the interstellar void. But even at this immense distance, the sun's influence is felt, not just through gravity, but through its breath. We turn our attention now to the invisible river that flows outward from the centre, bathing every planet and asteroid in a stream of charged particles. This is the solar wind, a continuous outpouring of plasma from the sun's upper atmosphere. Visualize this wind as a shimmering, tenuous mist, expanding outward in all directions. It is not a wind of air, but of electricity and magnetism. It carries the magnetic signature of the star, twisting and spiraling as the sun rotates, like the skirt of a dancer twirling in the dark. This wind creates a bubble around the planets, pushing back against the material between the stars. It is a dynamic, living force. Sometimes it is a gentle breeze, other times during solar storms it is a gale that rattles the magnetic cages of the worlds it touches. As you float in this stream, you can feel the connection it creates. It physically touches everything in the system, a medium that connects the surface of the sun to the surface of Pluto and beyond. It is the exhalation of our star, a constant reminder that the space between planets is not empty, but filled with the essence of the sun itself. This breath of the sun creates a distinct boundary, a tangible edge to our solar system known as the heliosphere. Imagine a ship moving through the ocean, creating a bow wave where it pushes against the water. Our sun is that ship moving through the galaxy, and the heliosphere is the bubble of solar wind it pushes ahead of itself. We drift now to the heliopause, the outer wall of this bubble. It is the turbulent region where the solar wind finally runs out of steam, crashing into the interstellar medium, the gas and dust that fills the space between the stars. Visualize a wall of pressure, a cosmic shoreline where the tide of the sun meets the tide of the galaxy. It is a place of mixing and turbulence, a barrier that shields us from high-energy cosmic rays speeding through the universe. Inside this bubble, we're in a protected harbour. Outside lies the open, stormy ocean of deep space. To cross this line is to leave the solar system truly behind, to step into the space between the stars. It is a shield of invisible energy, a force field generated by the sun's own vitality, creating a cozy pocket of stability in the chaotic expanse of the Milky Way. Within this protected bubble, the interaction of the solar wind and the planets creates one of the most mesmerizing spectacles in the universe. We drift back inward, hovering above the poles of the planets to witness the dance of the auroras. While we know them on Earth as the northern and southern lights, they are not unique to our world. Visualize looking down at the poles of Saturn or Jupiter. You see glowing rings of emerald green, violet, and ruby red circling the magnetic poles. These are not reflections of sunlight, but the air itself glowing with excitement. The charged particles from the solar wind are guided by the planet's magnetic field lines, spiraling down into the atmosphere like rain. When they strike the gases, they burst into light. It is a silent symphony of colour, shifting and undulating like curtains of silk in a breeze. On Jupiter, these lights are constant and intense, powered by the planet's own rapid rotation and volcanic moons. On Earth, they are fleeting and magical. In your mind, you can hear a faint crackling hum, the sound of the sky breathing in the energy of the sun. It is a visual reminder of the invisible shield that protects life, a transformation of dangerous radiation into pure, breathtaking beauty. Lifting our gaze from the planets and the sun entirely, we look out at the backdrop against which this entire drama plays out. We see a band of spilled milk spilled across the darkness, the Milky Way. This is our city of stars, a colossal spiral galaxy containing hundreds of billions of suns, of which ours is but one. From our position inside the disk, we see it as a dense river of light cutting the sky in half. Visualize the depth of that light. It is not a solid surface, but layers upon layers of stars, some close, some thousands of light years away, their light blending together into a cloudy haze. Dark rifts of dust silhouette against the glow, places where new stars are being born, wrapped in cocoons of nebular gas. We reside in a quiet suburb of this galaxy, the Orion Spur, located between two major spiral arms. It is a comfortable location, far from the chaotic radiation of the galactic core, yet close enough to see the grandeur of the structure. As you gaze into this river of light, you feel a sense of belonging. We are not separate from this. We are made of it. The atoms in your body were forged in the hearts of stars that lived and died in this very spiral billions of years ago. You're looking at your ancestors, at the cosmic history written in light. Finally, we become aware of a motion so grand, so slow, that it is almost imperceptible. Just as the moon orbits the Earth, and the Earth orbits the Sun, our entire solar system is orbiting the centre of the Milky Way galaxy. We are travellers on a galactic carousel. Visualise the Sun dragging all the planets, moons and comets with it, soaring through space at incredible speeds. Yet the galaxy is so vast that it takes 230 million years to complete a single orbit. This is a galactic year. The last time our solar system was in this part of the galaxy, dinosaurs were just beginning to roam the Earth. The continents were shaped differently. The flowers had not yet bloomed. We're surfing through the spiral arms, passing through clouds of interstellar dust, moving through the ages. This motion is smooth and silent, adrift through deep time. It reminds us that nothing is static. Even the sun is a pilgrim, wandering through the stellar forest, carrying us safely in its gravitational embrace. We're on a journey that is longer than the history of our species, a voyage that has no destination, only the beautiful, endless circle of existence. As we glide along this grand galactic curve, riding the wake of the sun through the stellar forest, we begin to perceive the underlying architecture of our own travelling home. From the vastness of the Milky Way, we narrow our focus back to the immediate family of planets, noticing a profound sense of order in their movement. Imagine seeing the solar system from a great distance, viewed from the side. You would not see a chaotic swarm of bees buzzing in all directions. Rather, you would see a perfect flat disk. This is the plane of the ecliptic. Visualize a vast invisible tabletop stretching out from the sun's waist, a cosmic vinyl record upon which the planets drift in their grooves. Almost every major world orbits within this thin, flat slice of space, a testament to the spinning disk of dust and gas from which we were all born. There is a deep rhythmic harmony to this flatness. It is as if the universe has calmed the chaos of creation, smoothing it out into a serene spinning plate. As you float level with this plane, you can see the planets aligned like pearls on a string, tracing a single line across the sky. It is a geometry of peace, a celestial level where the major players dance on the same stage, bowing to one another as they pass, bound to this invisible sheet of gravity that keeps the system organised and predictable in the infinite dark. Drifting within this flat plane, in the quiet spaces between the planets, we encounter a ghostly phenomenon that reveals itself only to the most patient of observers. It is a faint triangular glow that appears just before dawn or just after twilight, known as the zodiacal light. Imagine standing on a dark, quiet world, looking toward the horizon where the sun has long since set. Rising from that point is a soft, pyramidal haze of white light, leaning into the sky like a phantom pyramid. This is not the light of a star or a planet, but the collective glimmer of billions of microscopic dust particles scattered throughout the solar system. These are the crumbs of comets and the dust of colliding asteroids filling the inner solar system like a fine diamond mist. When the sunlight hits this dust, it scatters, creating this ethereal false dawn. Visualize yourself floating through this cloud of dust. It is so sparse you cannot see the individual grains, yet together they possess the power to paint the night sky. It feels ancient and delicate, a reminder that the space between the worlds is not truly empty, but filled with the glittering debris of history, a dusty veil that catches the sun's last whisper and holds it against the coming night. Following this dusty trail of light back to its source, we find ourselves once again in the presence of the sun. But this time we look closer, observing not just its light, but its movement. We often think of the sun as a static ball of fire, but in your dream state you can see that it is a fluid, flowing body. It does not rotate like the solid Earth, where the poles and the equator move together. The sun spins in sections, a phenomenon known as differential rotation. Visualize the equator of the sun spinning faster, completing a full turn in 25 days, while the poles lag behind, taking more than 30 days. Because the sun is not solid rock but a ball of plasma, it twists and turns like a river of fire. Imagine the magnetic field lines of the sun, invisible threads rooted in this plasma. As the equator spins faster, these lines get stretched, wrapped, and tangled around the star like rubber bands winding up a toy. You can feel the tension building, the immense coiled energy of a star that is constantly winding itself up. It is a massive, churning engine of fluid dynamics, a dance of layers sliding past one another, creating a hidden internal stress that powers the very weather of the solar system. This twisting and tangling of the sun's magnetic soul manifests on the surface as one of its most distinct features, sunspots. As we float closer to the photosphere, the blinding surface of the star, we see dark, irregular islands drifting in the sea of gold. These spots appear black, not because they are truly dark, but because they are cooler than the inferno surrounding them. Though cool here is still thousands of degrees. Picture these spots as magnetic knots, places where the tangled field lines we just witnessed burst through the surface, preventing the hot plasma from rising from below. They are the size of planets. You could drop the entire Earth into one of these dark pools, and it would be lost like a pebble in a pond. They shift and morph over days and weeks, drifting across the face of the sun like clouds on a summer day. There is a cycle to them, a rhythm of 11 years where the sun goes from spotless and quiet to covered in these magnetic freckles. Watching them feels like reading the tea leaves of a giant, interpreting the moods of the star that sustains us. They are the imperfections that make the sun a dynamic, living entity rather than a static bulb, a visual breathing of the solar magnetic heart. The dance of the sun and the moon creates a shadow play that is perhaps the most spectacular coincidence in the cosmos. We drift now to a specific point in space and time, aligning ourselves perfectly between the Earth, the moon, and the sun to witness a total solar eclipse. It is a marvel of geometry. The sun is 400 times wider than the moon, but it is also 400 times farther away. This perfect ratio means that from the surface of Earth, they appear to be exactly the same size. Visualize the moment of totality. The moon, a dark, silent disk, slides slowly in front of the raging fire of the sun. The sky darkens, the birds fall silent, and the temperature drops. Then, in the final second, the last ray of sunlight peeks through a valley on the moon's edge, creating the diamond ring effect, a single, brilliant jewel of light, and then it vanishes. In its place, the sun's atmosphere, the corona, bursts into view. It is a wispy, pearlescent halo of white streamers stretching out into the black sky, a ghostly crown that is usually hidden by the sun's glare. You're seeing the sun's breath, its outer atmosphere, shimmering like white silk. It is a moment of impossible alignment, a fleeting union of our two guardians, revealing the hidden beauty of the star in a moment of profound twilight stillness. As the shadow of the moon passes and the light returns, we turn our attention to the medium through which this light travels. We drift away from the celestial bodies into the deep, open void to experience the true nature of the vacuum. On Earth, our world is filled with vibration. Air molecules carry sound to our ears constantly. But here, in the vast spaces between planets, there is no air, and therefore there is absolute silence. Imagine a silence so deep, so heavy, that it feels like a physical weight. It is not an eerie silence, but a pure one. Explosions, collisions, and the roaring winds of the sun all happen in total quietude. If you were to float past a massive asteroid impact, you would see the debris flying, the ground shattering, but you would hear nothing. It is a peaceful isolation. This vacuum is also a perfect preserver. Without oxygen to rust metal or wind to erode stone, objects left here remain unchanged for eternity. A footprint, a flag, or a piece of debris becomes a permanent monument. Wrap yourself in this velvet silence. It is a break from the noise of existence, a place where your thoughts can resonate clearly without the interference of the world, a sanctuary of nothingness that holds everything together. In this silence, we become aware of the sensation of our own body in this environment. We're experiencing the state of freefall, commonly known as microgravity. It is a feeling often described as floating, but in truth, it is an endless, gentle fall. To orbit the Earth or the Sun is to fall toward it, but to move sideways so fast that you constantly miss the ground. Close your eyes and visualize the sensation. The pressure is lifted from your feet, your back, your shoulders. There is no up or down, there is only here. Your body naturally curls into a relaxed fetal position, the posture of a sleeper, the posture of the unborn. Fluids shift in your body, making your face feel full and warm, like the sensation of hanging upside down but without the rush of blood. You're weightless, unburdened by the heavy chains of gravity that have pulled at you every second of your life. You're a drift of dandelion fluff caught in a gentle breeze. It is the ultimate surrender, a letting go of the need to stand, to hold, to support. The universe holds you now, carrying you along its curved path, a ceaseless, effortless, gliding through the dark. Drifting on this effortless tide, we approach the retinue of the king of planets, Jupiter, to visit a moon that defies expectations. Emerging from the magnetic hum of the giant planet is Ganymede, the largest moon in the entire solar system. It is a titan in its own right, larger even than the planet Mercury. If it orbited the Sun alone, it would be considered a planet, but here it serves its master, Jupiter. As you descend toward its surface, you see a world of two faces: dark, ancient regions covered in craters, and lighter, younger regions sliced up by grooves and ridges. But the true wonder of Ganymede is invisible. It is the only moon known to possess its own magnetic field, a protective bubble generated by a churning molten iron core deep within. It is a moon with a heart of fire, and beneath its thick, icy crust lies a secret ocean, a layer of salt water buried miles deep, containing more water than all the oceans of Earth combined. Imagine floating through this subterranean sea, sandwiched between layers of ice, a pitch-black abyss where life could theoretically wait in the dark. It is a world within a world, a hidden sanctuary of liquid water protected by a shield of magnetism and a fortress of ice. Leaving the magnetic moon, we journey outward to the realm of Saturn to visit a world that feels hauntingly familiar yet utterly alien. This is Titan, Saturn's largest moon, the only moon in the solar system with a thick, substantial atmosphere. From space, it looks like a fuzzy orange ball. its surface completely hidden by a dense smog of nitrogen and hydrocarbons. We sink slowly into this orange haze. The atmosphere is thicker than Earth's, and the gravity is weak, meaning if you had wings, you could fly here with the strength of your own arms. As we break through the clouds, a strange landscape is revealed. It is a world of orange twilight. Rain falls here, but it is not water. It is liquid methane, natural gas condensed by the extreme cold. This rain feeds rivers that flow into vast lakes and seas near the poles. Imagine standing on the shore of a methane lake, the liquid perfectly still and black, reflecting the ringed planet hanging in the sky above. The rocks around you are made of water ice, frozen so hard they are as strong as granite. It is a primordial echo of Earth, a chemical laboratory frozen in deep time. The air is still and heavy, muffling sound, creating a cozy dim world of soft shadows and slow falling rain. Finally, we drift to the tilted ice giant, Uranus, to visit the most shattered object in the solar family. This is the small moon, Miranda. It is a tiny world, barely 300 miles across, yet it possesses a landscape of extreme violence and beauty. It looks as if the moon was smashed apart by a colossal impact and then hastily reassembled, a patchwork quilt of mismatched terrains. Visualize drifting over the Verona Rupes, the tallest cliff in the solar system. It is a sheer drop of over 12 miles, 10 times deeper than the Grand Canyon. Because the gravity here is so incredibly low, if you were to jump from the top of this cliff, it would take you over 10 minutes to reach the bottom. You would not plummet. You would float down, a slow-motion descent past miles of icy walls. You would have time to admire the layers of the cliff, the textures of the ice, the silence of the fall. Miranda is a monument to survival, a small, scarred world that held itself together against the odds, creating a jagged, chaotic beauty that stands in stark contrast to the smooth, gas giants that watch over it. It is a reminder that even in the broken fragments, there is wonder to be found. Floating down from the silent, icy precipice of Miranda, we allow the currents of the solar wind to carry us back toward the ringed jewel, Saturn. Here, amidst the retinue of icy satellites, we find a world that sparkles with an almost blinding purity. This is Enceladus, the brightest object in our solar system. It reflects nearly all the sunlight that touches it, a sphere of pristine, fresh snow that shines like a polished pearl against the black velvet of space. It is a small world, one you could hold in the palm of your imagination, yet it holds a secret that betrays the stillness of the vacuum. As we glide over its southern hemisphere, we see long, deep fractures cutting across the ice, blue-tinted scars known as tiger stripes. From these fissures, magnificent plumes of water vapor and ice crystals erupt silently into the void. Visualize these geysers shooting upward, miles high, like fountains of diamonds playing in slow motion. This is not a dead world. It is alive with geological breath. The heat generated by the friction of Saturn's gravity melts the ice deep below, creating a global ocean of salty water beneath the crust. These plumes are the spray of that hidden sea, escaping into space. As the ice crystals fall back, they coat the moon in fresh powder, keeping it eternally white. Some of the spray escapes entirely, drifting out to form a faint ghostly ring around Saturn itself, the E-ring. You're watching a moon that is slowly dissolving its own heart to paint a circle in the sky, a selfless act of cosmic creation. Leaving the pristine white of the ice world, we journey inward to the court of Jupiter, where the colours shift violently from cool blues and whites to angry yellows, oranges, and sickly greens. We approach Io, the most volcanically active body in the solar system. It is a world of torment and fire, caught in a gravitational tug-of-war between the massive Jupiter and the other Galilean moons. This constant pulling squeezes and stretches the moon's interior, generating immense heat that must escape. Picture a surface that looks like a painter's palette left too long in the sun, a landscape of sulfur and silicate rock with no impact craters, for the surface is constantly being paved over by fresh lava. As we drift closer, we witness a silent eruption. A plume of blue-tinged smoke and molten rock rises hundreds of miles into the sky, creating a majestic umbrella shape before the debris rains back down in slow motion. Because the gravity is low and there is no wind, the plume rises with perfect symmetry. The ground here is not cold rock, but warm, pulsating with the energy of the tides. Lakes of molten lava glow in the shadows. Rivers of fire carve channels through the sulfur plains. It is a hellish landscape, yet from our safe vantage point, it possesses a raw, primal beauty. It is the solar system's engine room, a place where the ground itself is a fluid, changing canvas, painting itself anew every single day. Drifting up from the surface of the volcanic moon, we turn our gaze to the planet it orbits. We have seen the bands of Jupiter before, but now we focus on its most famous feature, the Great Red Spot. From a distance, it is a mere blemish, but up close, it is a world unto itself. This is an anticyclonic storm, a high-pressure region that has been spinning for at least 300 years, perhaps much longer. It is grand enough to swallow the Earth whole with room to spare. Visualize yourself floating at the edge of this crimson vortex. The colour is a deep, rich terracotta, towering miles above the surrounding white cloud decks like a mesa in the sky. The winds at the edge scream at hundreds of miles per hour, creating a wall of turbulence, yet the centre is relatively calm. It is a lonely storm. It rolls like a ball bearing between the opposing wind bands of the planet, constantly churning, constantly eating smaller storms that drift too close. It has a heartbeat, shrinking and growing over decades, changing its hue from pale salmon to brick red. It feels ancient, a permanent eye watching the solar system. To float near it is to feel the scale of nature's power, a storm that outlives empires, a swirling monument to the chaotic fluid dynamics that govern the gas giants. We leave the king of planets and drift back to the North Pole of Saturn, where the atmosphere arranges itself into a shape that defies our understanding of fluids. Here, at the very top of the world, lies the hexagon. It is a six-sided jet stream, a perfect geometric shape capping the planet like a crown. Each side of the hexagon is wider than the Earth, and the sharp angles remain stable despite the rotation of the planet. Imagine looking down from directly above the pole. The centre is a deep, dark blue, swirling like a drain, while the hexagonal barrier walls are shades of gold and drab green. It looks artificial, like a massive nut screwed onto the bolt of the planet's axis, yet it is purely natural, a result of atmospheric waves resonating in perfect harmony. The seasons on Saturn are long, lasting 7 years, and as the sunlight shifts, the hexagon changes colour, shifting from blue to gold as the photochemical haze reacts to the light. It is a hypnotic sight, a spinning mandala of clouds. In the centre of this geometry sits a hurricane, spinning tight and fast, the eye of the storm staring straight up into the interstellar dark. It is a vision of order emerging from chaos, a reminder that even in the wildest winds the universe seeks balance and pattern. Descending from the cloud tops of the gas giants, we sink deeper, past the visible weather, into the crushing interiors of Uranus and Neptune. We are entering a realm where the pressure is so intense that the very nature of matter begins to change. Deep in the mantles of these ice giants, thousands of miles below the clouds, the carbon atoms from methane are squeezed together with such force that they crystallize. Visualize this hidden process in the dark, hot, pressurized slush. The carbon atoms lock into a diamond lattice structure. It begins as a mist, then forms into stones, and finally into a rain of diamonds. Imagine sitting in the dark heart of the planet, watching as millions of diamonds, some small as sand, others large as boulders, fall slowly toward the core. They glitter in the dark, not from reflected light, for there is no sun here, but perhaps from the flashes of lightning or the frictional heat of their descent. This is a diamond hail, a treasure storm that no human eye will ever see, sinking down to settle around the solid core, perhaps forming a layer of diamond thousands of miles thick. It is a vision of luxury hidden in the most hostile environment imaginable, a secret hoard buried in the chests of the blue giants. We rise from the depths of the giants and drift inward, crossing the frost line to the lonely expanse of the asteroid belt. Here, amidst the grey rubble, spins a dwarf planet that holds a mystery of its own. This is Ceres, the queen of the asteroid belt, a spherical world of rock and ice that bridges the gap between a planet and a rock. It is a dark world, asphalt black, yet as we approach, two blindingly bright lights pierce the gloom from within a crater. These are the Occata faculae. For years they puzzled astronomers, appearing like city lights or alien beacons in the darkness. But now we know they are vast deposits of sodium carbonate salt. Visualize the history of this crater. An impact punched a hole in the crust, allowing salty, slushy water from the interior to bubble up. The water sublimated into the vacuum, leaving behind the brilliant white salt crust. It reflects the sunlight with an intensity that dazzles the eye against the charcoal landscape. Ceres is a wet world in a dry place, a fossil of the early solar system. Drifting over these salt flats, you feel a sense of desolation mixed with wonder. It is a salt garden in the void, a white scar of purity on a rough ancient face, glowing steadily as the little world turns its lonely circle around the sun. Moving outward from the asteroid belt, we encounter an invisible boundary that shaped the destiny of every world we have visited. This is the frost line, also known as the snow line. It is not a physical wall, but a thermal threshold, roughly 300 million miles from the Sun, situated between Mars and Jupiter. Inside this line, the Sun's heat is too intense for water to freeze. It stays as vapor or liquid. Outside this line, the temperature drops low enough for water, ammonia and methane to condense into solid ice grains. Visualize this line as a cosmic weather front. On one side, the inner solar system is dry and rocky, filled with metals and silicates, the materials that could withstand the heat. On the other side, the universe turns into a snow globe. Ice was abundant here during the solar system's formation, allowing the giant planets to grow massive by scooping up all that frozen material. As you drift across this threshold, you feel the shift. You're crossing from the zone of rock and fire into the zone of ice and gas. It is the border between the terrestrial family and the Jovian giants, a line drawn in temperature that dictated the architecture of our home. It is the reason we have oceans while Jupiter has clouds. It is the silent regulator of planetary destiny. In the dance of gravity between these massive bodies, there exist quiet harbours, places of perfect stillness known as Lagrange points. These are specific locations in space where the gravitational pull of two large masses, like the Earth and the Sun, precisely cancel each other out. There are 5 of these points for every pair of objects, invisible pockets where a spacecraft or a piece of dust can stay fixed relative to the planets. Imagine floating at the L2 point, 1,000,000 miles behind the Earth, hidden from the Sun. Here, you do not need to use fuel to stay in place. You are balanced on the peak of a gravitational hill or resting in the bottom of a valley. It is a cosmic parking spot. The James Webb Space Telescope resides here, silently peering into the deep universe, shielded by the Earth's shadow. It feels like a calm eddy in a rushing river, a place where the forces of the universe are momentarily at peace. To rest here is to be held by the delicate balance of giants, suspended in an equilibrium that feels like the breath between 2 heartbeats. There is no pulling, no falling, only a perfect weightless suspension in the velvet dark. We often think of the Sun as the stationary anchor of our system, but in reality the Sun is dancing too. We drift now to a point just above the surface of the Sun to witness the concept of the barycenter. Because the planets, especially Jupiter, are so massive they pull on the Sun as they orbit. They do not just orbit the centre of the Sun, they orbit a common centre of mass. Visualize the solar system as a spinning mobile. The Sun is the heavy weight in the middle, but because Jupiter is a heavy counterweight, the point they both pivot around is actually slightly outside the Sun's surface. This means the Sun wobbles. It moves in a small, tight loop, waltzing with the gravity of its children. It is not a fixed tyrant, but a responsive partner. If you were an alien astronomer looking at our star from light years away, you wouldn't see the planets. You would see this wobble. You would see the star swaying back and forth, a subtle signal that it is not alone. It is a physical manifestation of connection, a reminder that even the greatest star is moved by the smallest of its companions. The gravity of the planets tugs at the heart of the star, a constant rhythmic reminder of their bond. Finally, we turn our gaze outward, away from the waltzing Sun, to contemplate the medium of our connection to the cosmos, light. We observe the universe not as it is now, but as it was. Light takes time to travel. When you look at the moon, you see it as it was 1 second ago. When you look at the Sun, you see it as it was 8 minutes ago. If the Sun were to vanish this instant, we would continue to enjoy its warmth and light for 8 full minutes before the darkness arrived. Visualize this delay as a vast, invisible echo chamber. As we look at the outer planets, we look hours into the past. As we look at the stars, we look years, centuries, millennia back in time. We're surrounded by ghosts of light. Drifting here in the open space, you realize that the concept of now is an illusion. Every object occupies its own time zone. To communicate with a probe on Pluto, we send a radio signal and must wait nearly 5 hours for it to arrive, travelling at the fastest speed in the universe. It is a slow, silent conversation. The distances are so vast that they stretch time itself. In this dream, feel the patience of the cosmos. There is no rush, for the light will travel at its own pace, carrying the images of the past into the future, a bridge of photons connecting the isolated islands of reality. You are floating in a sea of history, watching the universe unfold one delayed moment at a time. And while we float in this sea of delayed light, watching the ghosts of the past arrive in the present, we turn our gaze once more to the source of that illumination. From the surface of our blue world, the Sun appears as a warm golden disk, or at sunset a fiery crimson orb. But this is a trick of the atmosphere, a filter that scatters the blue light and leaves only the warm tones to reach our eyes. Here, in the clarity of the vacuum, stripped of the air's influence, we witness the true face of the star. Visualize the Sun as it truly is, a sphere of blinding, pure white. It is the white of fresh snow, the white of a diamond, a combination of every colour in the spectrum glowing at once. In this unblemished whiteness, there is a purity that feels almost clinical, yet overwhelmingly powerful. If you were to pass sunlight through a prism here, it would fan out into a perfect, uninterrupted rainbow, from deep violet to rich red. This white light is the honest colour of the cosmos, the raw energy of fusion before it is softened by the sky. To see the Sun in white is to see it naked, a stark, blazing hole in the darkness that illuminates the dust and the planets with an uncompromising, neutral brilliance. It reminds us that our perception is always coloured by the environment we inhabit, and that true reality is often brighter and starker than we imagine. Though light travels through the vacuum, we're often told that space is silent, for sound requires air to travel. And while this is true for our ears, the Sun itself is not silent. It is a roiling, boiling body of plasma, and inside it colossal pressure waves are constantly bouncing back and forth. The Sun is ringing like a bell. Imagine these sound waves resonating through the solar interior, millions of different notes combining into a continuous rhythmic thrum. This is a sound far too deep for human ears to hear, a frequency millions of times lower than the lowest note on a piano. But in your dream, you can feel it. It is a vibration that pulses through the fabric of the star, a heartbeat of pressure and release. These acoustic waves reveal the secrets of the sun's core, just as seismic waves reveal the layers of the earth. If we could speed up this sound, compressing weeks of vibration into a few seconds, it might sound like a deep, resonant gong, or a rhythmic, breathing hum. It is the song of fusion, a lullaby of energy that has been playing for 4.5 billion years, holding the star up against the crush of its own gravity. This celestial music is not limited to the sun. The planets, too, have their own voices, though they sing in a language of electricity and magnetism rather than air. As we drift past the magnetic fields of Earth and Jupiter, we enter a realm of invisible choruses known as plasma waves. These are interactions between the solar wind and the planetary magnetospheres, converting energy into radio waves. Visualize these waves being translated into sound. It is not a mechanical grinding, but a series of eerie, beautiful whistles and chirps. The Earth sings at dawn, a phenomenon called the chorus, which sounds like a flock of electronic birds tweeting in a canyon. Jupiter's song is deeper, more complex, filled with ocean-like roars and sharp, rhythmic clicking. Saturn emits a haunting, mournful melody that changes with its rotation. These are the music of the spheres that ancient philosophers dreamed of, now realized through the physics of the void. Floating here, you're bathed in this electromagnetic symphony, a constant, invisible concert that plays to the empty audience of space, a testament to the vibrant, energetic life of the planets that goes on even when no one is listening. Drifting away from the magnetic songs of the giants, we turn our attention to the physical substance of the ringed wonder, Saturn. We have admired its beauty, but now we contemplate its lightness. Despite being the second largest planet, a colossus that dwarfs the Earth, Saturn is incredibly airy. It is the only planet in our solar system that is less dense than water. Picture a bathtub of impossible size, stretching across light years, filled with a cosmic ocean. If you were to gently lower Saturn into this water, it would not sink. It would bob on the surface like a ball of balsa wood or an apple in a barrel. This lightness gives the planet a soft, fluffy quality in your mind's eye. It is composed mostly of hydrogen and helium, gases that want to expand, held together only by the sheer scale of the planet. This low density means that gravity at the cloud tops is surprisingly weak. If you could find a solid place to stand, you would feel only slightly heavier than you do on Earth. It is a gas giant in the truest sense, a massive, billowing cloud that defies the intuition of weight, floating serenely in the darkness, a paradox of massive size and delicate substance. But gravity is not always gentle. As we move closer to the planets, we encounter an invisible boundary line that dictates the difference between a moon and a ring. This is the Roche limit. It is a mathematical line of tension, a zone of danger surrounding every massive body. Visualize a small, icy moon spiraling slowly inward toward a giant planet. As it crosses this invisible line, the gravity pulling on the front of the moon becomes significantly stronger than the gravity pulling on the back. The moon begins to stretch, groaning under the tidal stress. It elongates into the shape of a football, then a cigar. Finally, the internal forces can no longer hold it together. With a silent, slow-motion fracture, the moon shatters. It crumbles into millions of pieces, spreading out to form a ring. This is the ghost of a world, a moon that flew too close to the flame. The rings of Saturn are the beautiful remains of this destruction, a graveyard of ice spread out in a perfect circle. The Roche limit is the no trespassing sign of gravity, a reminder that the forces that hold the solar system together also have the power to tear it apart. There is a world right now that is slowly marching toward this exact fate. We drift back to the rust-coloured skies of Mars to observe its closest companion, the potato-shaped moon, Phobos. Unlike our moon, which is drifting away, Phobos is spiralling inward, drawing closer to Mars with every orbit. It is a doomed traveller. Visualize this small, scarred rock whipping around the red planet 3 times a day, moving so fast it rises in the west and sets in the east. From the surface of Mars, it looks small and jagged, a rough-hewn rock blotting out the stars. Every century it moves 6 feet closer to the surface. It is caught in a death spiral. In 30 to 50 million years, a blink of an eye in cosmic time, it will reach the Roche limit of Mars. Imagine the moment when the stress becomes too much. The moon will crack and crumble, raining down debris or forming a new dusty ring around Mars. It is a slow-motion catastrophe, a reminder that the solar system is not a finished painting, but a work in progress, where moons are still being destroyed and rings are still being born. Far across the system, in the cold, blue light of Neptune, another act of rebellion is taking place. Here orbits Triton, a large moon with a surface of frozen nitrogen. What makes this world unique is its path. It orbits in the opposite direction of its planet's rotation, a movement known as retrograde. Picture a vast, synchronized dance where everyone is spinning clockwise, and one lone dancer pushes counterclockwise against the flow. This tells us that Triton was not born here. It was a wanderer, a dwarf planet from the dark Kuiper belt that ventured too close and was captured by Neptune's gravity billions of years ago. The capture would have been violent, chaotic, but now the moon glides silently in its backward path. But this rebellion comes at a cost. Like Phobos, Triton is slowing down, stealing energy from Neptune to maintain its backward orbit. It too is spiraling inward, destined to one day break apart and form a magnificent halo around the blue giant. It is a captured king, serving a foreign master, walking backward through eternity until the day it dissolves into a ring of glory. Descending from the icy moons into the deep, crushing atmosphere of Jupiter once more, we seek to understand what lies beneath the clouds. We have spoken of gas and storms, but deep down, thousands of miles below the surface, the hydrogen undergoes a transformation so radical, it creates a new state of matter. Visualize the pressure mounting, heavier than the bottom of the Mariana Trench, heavier than the weight of continents. Under this crushing hug, the hydrogen gas is squeezed until the electrons are stripped from the atoms. The gas becomes a liquid, but not just any liquid. It becomes liquid metallic hydrogen. Imagine a vast deep ocean of fluid metal swirling and churning in the dark. It conducts electricity like a copper wire. It is this metallic ocean, spinning rapidly as the planet rotates, that generates the immense magnetic field of Jupiter. You're floating in a sea of liquid metal that has no surface and no bottom, a strange conductive soup that creates the shield for the entire Jovian system. It is a substance that exists naturally only here, in the hearts of giants, a hidden treasure of physics buried under layers of storm. We pull back now, retreating from the crushing depths to the safety of the open vacuum. Here, we ponder a sensory question that seems impossible. What does space smell like? We cannot breathe in the vacuum, but astronauts returning from spacewalks, once the airlock is repressurized and they remove their helmets, describe a distinct, lingering scent clinging to their suits. Visualize the airlock filling with oxygen, the hiss of the pressure equalizing. As the astronaut inhales, they smell something sharp and distinct. It is described as seared steak, hot metal, welding fumes, or gunpowder. It is the smell of high-energy vibrations. It comes from dying stars. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons are molecules that float in the void, formed by the combustion of stellar material. When these molecules attach to the fabric of a spacesuit and react with the oxygen of the ship, they burn, releasing this metallic acrid aroma. It is the scent of the universe's exhaust, the perfume of ancient stellar fires. It connects the cold, sterile void to something visceral and industrial. The cosmos, it seems, smells of hard work and creation, a lingering smoke from the forge of the Big Bang. Finally, we drift to the outer edges of the main system past Neptune to the realm of the dwarf planets, where we encounter a world that defies the shape of a sphere. This is Haumea, a rock roughly the size of Pluto, but with a frantic, dizzying energy. Visualize a world spinning so fast that it has stretched itself out. Instead of a round ball, Haumea looks like a rugby ball or a smooth, polished egg tumbling end over end. It completes a full rotation in less than 4 hours. If you were standing on its equator, the centrifugal force would be so strong that you would feel almost weightless, as if the planet were trying to throw you off into space. This rapid spin is the result of a massive collision in the deep past, a hit that sent it spinning like a top and blasted away its icy mantle. It is a naked, rocky world coated in a thin layer of crystalline ice, surrounded by its own faint ring and 2 small moons. It looks unstable, a wobbling ellipsoid in the dark, a testament to the violence of celestial mechanics. It reminds us that not all worlds are perfect spheres. Some are twisted and stretched by the sheer speed of their existence, spinning wildly in the frozen silence of the outer rim. From the dizzying, tumbling rotation of that elongated world, we slow our internal pace, allowing the momentum to fade as we drift toward a neighbour in this frozen frontier. Here, the chaotic energy of the spinning egg is replaced by a profound reddish stillness. We are approaching the dwarf planet Make, a world that gleams with the colour of dried clay or frozen rust against the eternal black. Unlike the grey rocks of the inner asteroid belt, this world is painted by the chemistry of the cold. Visualize a surface covered in pellets of frozen methane and ethane, creating a texture like coarse red sand. It is a lonely world, one of the brightest objects in the Kuiper belt, yet it possesses no atmosphere for most of its long year. It is a naked sphere of ice, exposed to the vacuum. The sun here is merely a brilliant point of light, providing no warmth, only a faint illumination that makes the red surface glow with a spectral alien luminescence. Named after a creator god of Easter Island, there is a sense of primal isolation here. It feels like an unfinished thought of the universe, a pristine reddish pearl left in the deep freezer of space, untouched by the winds and storms that ravage the larger planets. Standing on its surface, the silence would be absolute, a stillness so deep that it feels like the pause before the beginning of time, a red desert of ice waiting under the watching stars. Drifting further into the scattered disk, we encounter the ruler of this chaotic realm, a world that challenged our very definition of a planet. This is Eris, a world of blinding white. Farther away than Pluto, farther than Make, it sits in the deep freeze, covered in a layer of nitrogen ice so reflective that it shines with the intensity of fresh snow. Imagine floating above this brilliant white wasteland. It is so cold here that when the planet moves to the farthest point of its orbit, its entire atmosphere freezes and falls to the ground as snow, leaving a vacuum. As it creeps closer to the sun over centuries, the ground sublimates, and the atmosphere is reborn, a ghostly resurrection of air. Eris is a heavy world, more massive than Pluto, a dense ball of rock wrapped in a perfect reflective shell. It is the disruptor, the goddess of strife, yet to look upon it is to see only perfection. The whiteness is uniform, unbroken, a mirror for the distant stars. It feels aloof, a queen in exile living in the most distant castle of the solar kingdom, guarding the edge of the known world with a cold, glittering indifference. Beyond Eris, beyond the known dwarfs, the movements of these icy worlds hint at a presence we cannot see. We drift now into the realm of the theoretical, the ghost in the machine. Mathematicians and dreamers alike feel the pull of a massive invisible hand shepherding the orbits of the outer rocks. This is the domain of the hypothetical Planet 9. Visualize a world 10 times the mass of Earth, a super-Earth or a mini-Neptune, hiding in the dark, hundreds of times farther from the sun than we are. It is a phantom, detectable only by the way it makes other worlds dance. Imagine a planet so cold and so dark that it absorbs almost all light, moving in a slow, majestic orbit that takes 20,000 years to complete. It is the puppeteer in the shadows. We drift through the empty space where it should be, feeling the gravitational wake of a giant that refuses to reveal its face. It represents the unknown that still remains in our own backyard, a reminder that we have not finished mapping our home. It feels like a presence in a dark room, a heavy silent gravity that aligns the distinct orbits of Sedna and its kin, a dark shepherd herding its icy flock at the very limits of the sun's reach. Leaving the gravity of the planets, real and theoretical, completely behind, we encounter a tiny metallic speck moving faster than a bullet, carrying the memory of humanity into the stars. This is Voyager 1, the farthest human-made object from Earth. Launched decades ago, it has crossed the heliopause and is now sailing the open waters of interstellar space. Visualize this small, gold-plated probe, a fragile assemblage of dishes and antennas, drifting in the absolute void. It is powered by the dying heat of a nuclear heart, barely whispering its data back to Earth. But strapped to its side is a treasure, the golden record. Imagine this phonograph record, etched with the sounds of Earth, the call of whales, the laughter of children, the greeting of languages, the sound of rain and wind. In the profound silence of the space between stars, this record holds the potential of sound. It is a message in a bottle thrown into the widest ocean imaginable. To float alongside Voyager is to feel a poignant mix of loneliness and hope. It is a tiny spark of consciousness, a metallic seed carrying the story of who we are, drifting forever away from the sun, destined to wander the galaxy long after the civilization that built it has turned to dust. But the connection between the cosmos and the Earth is not just a one-way street of probes leaving. It is also a rain of ancient matter falling. We drift back to the familiar blue skies of Earth to witness a constant invisible precipitation. Every day, our planet is bombarded by tons of cosmic dust. These are not meteors that burn up in streaks of fire, but microscopic particles, micrometeorites, that float gently down through the atmosphere like stellar dandruff. Visualize these tiny grains, smaller than a grain of sand. They are the leftovers from the formation of the solar system, or the debris from asteroid collisions billions of years ago. They settle everywhere. They land in the oceans, in the deserts, and on the Antarctic ice. But most intimately, they land on the roof of your house. Imagine that in the gutters of every building, mixed with the leaves and the dirt, are tiny, spherical beads of magnetic rock that came from deep space. You're living under a dusting of the universe. To hold out your hand in the rain is to catch atoms that were once part of a comet's tail. It dissolves the barrier between up there and down here. We are not just observing the solar system, we are being physically touched by it, dusted every day by the falling remnants of creation. We float now to the second rock from the sun, Venus, to witness a snowfall that defies all earthly logic. We've spoken of the crushing heat and the acid clouds, but on the very highest peaks of the Venusian mountains, the Maxwell Montes, something glitters. Radar scans from orbit show these peaks are highly reflective, capped with a substance that looks like snow. But in a world hot enough to melt lead, this is not water ice. Visualize a heavy metallic frost. As the lead and bismuth sulfides in the lower atmosphere are boiled into a vapor, they rise like steam. When they hit the cooler temperatures of the high altitudes, cooler still being hundreds of degrees, they condense and fall out of the air. It is a snow of heavy metal. Imagine standing on a jagged peak, watching shiny metallic flakes drift down from the yellow sky, coating the rocks in a layer of fool's gold and lead. The ground crunches underfoot not like snow, but like crystals of metal. It is a landscape of toxic opulence, a gilded mountain range hidden beneath the thick, choking clouds, where the weather cycle involves the sublimation and precipitation of minerals that we use to weigh down fishing lines. Drifting inward to the closest planet, Mercury, we see a world that is physically shrinking. As the iron core of the planet slowly cools over billions of years, it contracts, pulling the crust inward with it. But rock is brittle. It does not shrink smoothly. It buckles and breaks. Visualize the surface of Mercury, a grey, cratered landscape that looks much like the moon. But crossing this landscape are massive cliffs, miles high and hundreds of miles long, called Labatt scarps. These are the wrinkles of a dying world. Imagine standing at the base of one of these cliffs. It looks like a giant wave of rock that has frozen in time, a thrust fault where the ground has been shoved up and over itself. The planet is literally shriveling up like a dried apple. It creates a sense of slow, grinding compression. The ground here is under immense stress, squeezing tighter and tighter as the heart of the planet turns to solid stone. It is a geological hug of immense power, reshaping the face of the world not by wind or water, but by the slow, relentless cooling of its own interior. We pull back from the planets to observe the Earth again, but this time we watch it through the lens of deep time. We think of the North Star, Polaris, as a fixed point, the unmoving nail in the sky around which the heavens turn. But in the grand dream of the cosmos, nothing is fixed. The Earth wobbles on its axis like a dying, spinning top, a motion called precession. Visualize a line extending from the North Pole into the stars. Right now, it points to Polaris. But the Earth is slowly tracing a circle in the sky, a cycle that takes 26,000 years to complete. Drift back in time to the days of the ancient Egyptians, when the pyramids were young. The North Star was not Polaris, but a star called Thuban in the constellation Draco. Drift forward 12,000 years, and the bright star Vega will take the crown. The sky is a shifting tapestry. The constellations are slowly drifting, the pole is wandering. To watch this in the dream state is to see the heavens unmoored. It gives a sense of fluidity to the sky, a reminder that forever is a relative term, and that even the steady guide stars are merely temporary travellers passing through the celestial pole. As we watch the Earth wobble, we notice its partner, the Moon, engaging in a subtle dance of its own. We're often told the Moon is tidally locked, showing only one face to the Earth. While this is true, the Moon is not perfectly still. It nods and rocks slightly in the sky, a phenomenon known as libration. Visualize the face of the Moon as a shy friend. Because its orbit is an ellipse, it speeds up and slows down, while its rotation stays constant. This mismatch allows us to peek around the edges. Sometimes we see a little more of the eastern rim, sometimes the western. It also nods up and down as it moves above and below the Earth's equator. Over time, we can actually see 59% of the lunar surface, not just 50. It feels like the Moon is breathing, a gentle, rhythmic, swaying motion. It is not a static portrait hanging in the sky, but a living, moving body that oscillates with the physics of its orbit. Watching this sped up in your mind is like watching a ship rocking gently on a calm sea, revealing just a little more of its hull with each sway, a teasing glimpse of the dark side that is usually hidden from view. Finally, we pause to comprehend the sheer, mind-bending scale of the emptiness that separates these two dancing partners. We see the Earth and the Moon in diagrams as being close together, but the reality of the distance is staggering. The gap between them is roughly 239,000 miles. Visualize this space not as a void, but as a parking lot. You could take every other planet in the solar system, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune, and line them up, pole to pole, in the space between the Earth and the Moon, and there would still be room left over. Picture the massive bulk of Jupiter filling the sky, the rings of Saturn stretching out, the blue giants wedged in. They all fit. This single fact shatters our sense of intimacy. Even in our own backyard, the dominant feature of the solar system is not matter, it is empty space. The planets are merely tiny, lonely marbles floating in a vast, overwhelming ocean of nothingness. To float in this gap is to feel the true sparsity of existence, a profound, airy openness where the planets are rare, precious islands in an infinite sea of dark. And within that vast, open silence where the planets float like rare islands, there is a movement occurring that is so subtle, yet so profound, it speaks to the eventual solitude of our world. We perceive the Moon as our constant, faithful companion, locked in a permanent embrace with the Earth. But in the deep, slow time of the cosmos, it is actually saying a long, drawn-out goodbye. Visualize the invisible strings of gravity that connect the oceans of Earth to the rock of the Moon. As the tides rise and fall, crashing against the continents, they create friction, a drag that very slowly acts as a brake on the Earth's rotation. This energy does not disappear. It is transferred outward, pushing the Moon slightly higher into the sky. Every single year, the Moon drifts away from us by a distance equal to the growth of a fingernail. It is a microscopic retreat, imperceptible to the eye, but over aeons, it accumulates into a vast separation. In the distant past, the Moon loomed huge and terrifying in the sky, driving tides of unimaginable violence. In the distant future, it will be a small, dim dot, too far away to ever fully eclipse the sun again. To watch this in your mind is to witness the longest farewell in history, a slow, spiraling drift into the dark, reminding us to cherish the proximity we have in this fleeting moment of cosmic time. Yet, even as the Moon pulls away, it remains intimately connected to us in a way that shatters our understanding of where Earth ends and space begins. We are taught that the atmosphere ends a few miles up, fading into the vacuum, but in reality the Earth's presence extends much, much farther. Visualize a faint, ghostly cloud of hydrogen atoms surrounding our planet, glowing with invisible ultraviolet light. This is the geocorona. It is a tenuous halo, a thin breath of the Earth that billows outward into the void. Recent observations have revealed that this cloud extends nearly 400,000 miles into space, well beyond the orbit of the Moon. This means that the Moon is not orbiting outside the Earth's atmosphere. It is orbiting inside it. Imagine standing on the dusty lunar surface, looking back at the blue marble. You're still, in a sense, within the embrace of the Earth's exosphere. We live in a much larger house than we thought, a sphere of influence where the wisps of our own air brush against the face of our satellite, blurring the sharp line between home and the alien deep. While the geocorona offers a tenuous connection, there are places on the Moon that have been cut off from the universe for billions of years. We drift now to the lunar poles, to the bottom of deep, jagged craters like the Hermit crater. These are the cold traps. Because the Moon has no tilt to its axis, the sun never rises high enough to peek over the rim of these holes. Visualize standing at the bottom of such a crater. It is a place of eternal shadow, a darkness that has not been broken by a single ray of sunlight since the dinosaur age or before. Because there is no atmosphere to circulate heat, the temperature here drops to levels that defy imagination, colder even than the surface of Pluto. These are the coldest known places in the entire solar system, right here in our own backyard. In this permanent night, ancient water ice lies preserved, frozen hard as rock, mixed with the dust. It is a time capsule of the early solar system, a freezer that never opens. To rest your mind here is to experience the ultimate stillness, a cold so absolute that it stops the vibration of atoms, a sanctuary of shadow hidden just a few days' flight from the warmth of the sun. Leaving the frozen shadows of the Moon, we travel inward to the sweltering brightness of Venus to contemplate a distortion of time that feels dreamlike. On Earth, the rhythm of day and night is rapid, a heartbeat of light and dark. But on Venus, the rotation is agonizingly slow. The planet spins so lethargically that it takes longer to complete one single rotation on its axis than it does to complete an entire orbit around the Sun. Visualize this paradox. A day on Venus is longer than a year on Venus. If you were to stand on the scorching surface, the sun would not seem to move. It would hang in the sky for weeks, a glaring eye that refuses to blink. There is no relief of evening cool, no swift passage of time. The concept of tomorrow becomes meaningless when today lasts for months. It creates a sensation of suspended animation, a thick, heavy timelessness where the calendar flips faster than the clock. To exist here is to be trapped in an eternal noon, a reminder that time is not a universal constant, but a flexible, warping experience dictated by the momentum of the ground beneath your feet. Drifting outward past the Earth and Mars, we approach the massive gravitational well of Jupiter once more. But this time we recognize it not as a king, but as a guardian. This giant world acts as the vacuum cleaner of the solar system, a cosmic shield that has protected the inner worlds for aeons. Visualize the early solar system, a chaotic shooting gallery of comets and asteroids. Without Jupiter's immense gravity, many more of these projectiles would have spiraled inward to strike the Earth, perhaps extinguishing life before it could begin. You can see the evidence of this protection in the scars Jupiter bears. Picture the comet Shoemaker-Levy 9, which broke apart and slammed into Jupiter's cloud tops in the 1990s. The impacts left dark bruises in the atmosphere the size of the Earth, wounds of soot and turmoil that lasted for months. Those blows were meant for the inner system, but the giant took them. It captures these wanderers or flings them out of the system entirely with a gravitational sling. It is a silent sentinel, a massive swirling catch mitt that clears the path for the fragile biology of the blue planet to flourish in safety. Among the many moons circling this guardian and its neighbour Saturn, there is one that presents a visual riddle, a study in duality. We drift to the orbit of Saturn to visit Iapetus, the two-faced moon. As we approach, the contrast is startling. One hemisphere is as white as snow, reflecting the distant sunlight with a brilliant gleam. The other hemisphere is pitch black, dark as charcoal, absorbing the light. Visualize this yin and yang world spinning slowly in the void. The dark material is dust, swept up from space as the moon plows through its orbit, coating the leading side like bugs on a windshield. But there is another oddity here. Running exactly along the equator is a massive ridge of mountains, miles high, girdling the entire moon. It gives Iapetus the distinct appearance of a giant walnut floating in space. It looks constructed, artificial almost in its perfect geometry, yet it is a natural wonder of ice and rock. To float above the transition line where the black velvet ground meets the blinding white ice is to stand on the border of night and day, a world divided against itself, forever wearing a mask of shadow as it circles the ringed planet. We pull back now, zooming out far beyond the planets to see the shape of the solar system itself as it moves through the galaxy. We often picture our system as a round bubble, but because we are moving through the interstellar medium, the gas and dust between stars, we leave a wake behind us. We're not a bubble, we're a comet. Visualize the sun and all its planets speeding through the galaxy at nearly 500,000 miles per hour. Ahead of us, the solar wind pushes against the interstellar gas, creating a rounded nose. But behind us, trailing off into the darkness, is the heliotail. It is a long, twisted stream of solar particles and magnetic fields, stretching out for millions of miles like the tail of a meteor. Recent data suggests it is shaped like a four-leaf clover, trailing in our wake. We are the head of a great cosmic serpent slithering through the Milky Way. To visualize this is to feel the momentum of our journey. We are not sitting still in a quiet room. We are rushing forward, hair blowing in the cosmic wind, leaving a long invisible trail of history behind us in the dark waters of the galaxy. As we traverse these vast distances, we often rely on sight, but the universe has other qualities, hidden sensory details that we can only understand through chemistry. We drift to the pale green-blue orb of Uranus to answer a strange question. What does this world smell like? If we could strip away the vacuum and take a breath of the cloud tops, what would we experience? The answer lies in the clouds of hydrogen sulfide that dominate the upper atmosphere. Visualize the scent of rotten eggs, of sulfur springs, of the deep, pungent earth. It is a sharp, repulsive, yet primal smell. While the other giant planets are draped in ammonia, which smells like cleaning fluid, Uranus is wrapped in this ancient volcanic stench. It is a world of incredible beauty to the eye, a smooth aquamarine marble, but a world of foulness to the nose. This sensory dissonance grounds the dream. It reminds us that these are real physical places with chemical compositions, not just abstract paintings. It is a beautiful, smelly giant, rolling on its side, holding its pungent breath in the cold reaches of the seventh orbit. Leaving the smelly giant, we drift to one of Saturn's smaller, irregular moons, a world that defies the laws of order. This is Hyperion, the sponge moon. It does not look like a solid rock. It looks exactly like a natural sea sponge or a piece of coral, pitted with deep, dark craters that honeycomb its interior. Visualize a world that is so porous, so filled with holes, that it is barely held together. But the true strangeness of Hyperion is its movement. Most moons spin predictably, with a set day and night. Hyperion is chaotic. It tumbles. It flips end over end, wobbling and rolling unpredictably as it interacts with the gravity of nearby Titan. If you were standing on its surface, you would never know where the sun would rise. It might come up in the north, set in the east, and then not appear again for weeks. The stars would streak across the sky in dizzying, drunken paths. It is a world of vertigo, a tumbling piece of cosmic flotsam that refuses to settle down. It represents the element of chance, the wild, untamed motion that still exists in the orderly clockwork of the solar system. Finally, we cast our minds to the extreme edge, far beyond the comfortable orbits of the known planets, to visit a lonely wanderer that spends its life in the abyss. This is Sedna. It is a dwarf planet, red and cold, that lives in the deepest exile. Its orbit is not a circle, but a massive stretched loop that takes it incredibly far from the sun. Visualize the view from Sedna. The sun is not a disk. It is merely the brightest star in a sky full of stars. You could block it out with the head of a pin. It provides no heat, only a cold, hard light. Sedna takes 11,000 years to complete a single orbit. The last time Sedna was this close to the sun, humanity was just inventing agriculture. It will not return for another 11 millennia. To ride with Sedna is to experience true isolation. It is a slow, silent drift through the void, a journey that spans the rise and fall of entire civilizations on Earth. It is the patience of the cosmos personified, a red sentinel walking the long, dark road between the solar system and the nothingness beyond, peaceful in its profound, icy solitude. From the icy, elongated exile of Sedna, we allow our minds to drift all the way back to the very center of our existence, to the blinding heart of the sun. We have spoken of the light that warms our skin, but we have not yet honored the ancient journey that this light must undertake before it can ever reach us. We perceive sunlight as immediate, a stream of instant warmth, yet the light that touches your face today is older than human civilization. Visualize the birth of a single particle of light, a photon, deep within the crushing density of the sun's core. It is born from the violent kiss of hydrogen atoms fusing together, but it is not free. The core is so crowded, so packed with plasma, that the photon cannot travel in a straight line. It can barely move the width of an atom before it slams into another particle, bounces off, is absorbed and re-emitted. It is a drunkard's walk, a chaotic, zigzagging pinball game played in the dark. Imagine being trapped in a dense, glowing fog, taking millions of tiny steps in random directions. This struggle continues for what scientists estimate to be anywhere from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of years. The light of today began its journey when our ancestors were still painting in caves, or perhaps even before our species existed. It has been fighting its way out of the star for eons. Only when it reaches the surface, the photosphere, is it finally released into the freedom of the vacuum, crossing the massive distance to Earth in a mere 8 minutes. To feel the sun on your skin is to be touched by the ancient past, a greeting from the deep history of the star finally arriving to meet you. This great star, this ancient sender of light, is not merely a steady lamp. It is a breathing entity with a rhythm of its own. Just as the tides rise and fall on Earth, the Sun undergoes a monumental cycle of magnetic breathing. Every 11 years, the Sun's magnetic personality completely flips. The North Pole becomes the South, and the South becomes the North. Visualize this slow, majestic reversal. It is not a sudden snap, but a gradual churning transformation. As the cycle peaks, the Sun becomes restless, covered in spots and storms, flinging vast clouds of plasma into the dark. Then, as the poles reverse, it settles down into a period of quiet, a solar minimum. The face of the star becomes spotless, smooth, and calm. The solar wind calms to a gentle breeze. This is the heartbeat of the solar system, a decade-long inhalation and exhalation that dictates the weather of space. We are currently living inside the atmosphere of a variable star, riding the waves of its magnetic ocean. To understand this is to feel the slow pulse of the cosmos, a rhythm so deep and long that it takes a significant portion of a human life to witness a single beat. It is a reminder that even the burning stars have their seasons of rest and their seasons of activity. Drifting away from the rhythmic breathing of the Sun, we allow the solar wind to carry us to the dusty, rust-coloured dunes of Mars to witness a reversal of a different kind, a reversal of colour. On Earth, we are accustomed to blue skies during the day and red, orange or pink sunsets at night. This feels like the natural order of things. But on Mars, the rules of light are inverted. Imagine standing in the Jezero crater as the afternoon wears on. During the day, the skies are butterscotch pink or a dusty tan, coloured by the fine iron oxide suspended in the thin atmosphere. But as the Sun begins to dip toward the horizon, the light must pass through more of this dust. The dust particles are exactly the right size to scatter the red light away and let the blue light pass through. A cold, electric blue halo begins to form around the sinking Sun. The sunset is not a fire, it is a cool, sapphire gaze. The area around the solar disk glows with a serene, icy blue that fades into the darkness of space. It is a haunting, alien beauty, a visual signal that you are far from home. It feels quiet, cold, and profoundly lonely. To watch a blue sunset is to stand on a world where the atmosphere whispers in a different language of light, painting the evening in the colours of a deep, frozen ocean. Moving outward from the blue evenings of Mars, we glide silently toward the grand architect of the solar system, Jupiter. But we do not approach the planet itself. Instead, we drift to the empty spaces 60 degrees ahead of it, and 60 degrees behind it in its orbit. These are the Lagrange points we spoke of earlier, but here they are not empty. They are populated by massive swarms of rocks known as the Trojan asteroids. Visualize two vast, diffuse clouds of dark rocks, millions of them, marching in lockstep with the giant planet. They are like an honor guard, or a retinue of courtiers, forever trapped in the gravitational pockets of safety. These asteroids have been stuck here since the very formation of the solar system, unable to escape the balance of gravity between the Sun and Jupiter. They are camping in the stable zones. Some of them are named after heroes of the Trojan War, Achilles, Hector, Agamemnon, forever playing out their ancient conflict in the cold vacuum. It is a celestial traffic jam that never clears, a massive silent herd of rocks that will circle the Sun for eternity, bound to the king of planets by invisible chains of gravity. To float among them is to be in a museum of the early solar system, a collection of fossils held in suspended animation by the delicate balance of forces. Leaving the stable herds of Jupiter, we drift further into the dark to revisit the rings of Saturn. We have seen their icy brilliance, but there is a phenomenon here that defies easy explanation, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. These are the spokes. Imagine hovering over the B-ring, the largest and brightest of the bands. Suddenly, dark, wedge-shaped shadows appear, stretching radially across the rings like the spokes of a bicycle wheel. But there is nothing casting a shadow. These are not solid objects. They are clouds of microscopic dust, levitated away from the ring plane by static electricity. Visualize the rings charging up, perhaps from the solar wind or lightning in Saturn's atmosphere. The tiny dust grains repel each other and float upward, hovering above the larger ice boulders. As the planet rotates, these ghostly smears turn with it. They appear for a few hours, then vanish as the lighting changes or the charge dissipates. They are the fingerprints of electromagnetism, ephemeral phantom structures that remind us the rings are not just a solid track, but a dynamic, charged environment where dust dances to the tune of invisible lightning. From the ghostly dust of Saturn, we travel to the farthest known large object, Pluto, to correct a vision in our mind's eye. We often think of Pluto as a grey or white ball of ice, a monochromatic world. But when the New Horizons probe swept past this distant outpost, it turned its cameras back to look at Pluto's night side, backlit by the distant sun. It saw something breathtaking, a ring of blue. Pluto has a sky. It is thin, tenuous and fragile, but it is there. And just like the sky of Earth, it is blue. Visualize standing on the nitrogen glaciers of Pluto looking up. The sun is just a piercingly bright star, but the haze layers in the atmosphere scatter the sunlight to create a delicate azure halo. This blue comes from tholins, complex organic particles that form high in the atmosphere and drift down like a gentle chemical snow. It creates a sense of eerie familiarity at the edge of the solar system. Even here, billions of miles from the warm oceans of Earth, the physics of light creates a bridge of colour. It is a fragile blue shell protecting a frozen heart, a reminder that the sky's a blanket we carry with us even into the deepest dark. But what lies in the space between these worlds? We often think of space as a void, but the solar system is actually travelling through a very specific kind of emptiness. We are currently moving through something called the local bubble. Visualize the interstellar space of our galaxy as a Swiss cheese, filled with dense clouds of gas and clear, empty holes. Our sun is currently drifting through one of these holes. This cavity is hundreds of light years wide, a vast, expanding bubble of thin, hot gas. It was carved out millions of years ago by the explosions of ancient supernovae, stars that died and blasted the surrounding gas away, clearing a path for us. We are travelling through the aftermath of a cosmic violent event, but it is a peaceful aftermath. The density of matter here is incredibly low, much lower than the average for the galaxy. It is like driving on a clear, open highway after being in a fog. This bubble allows us to see the stars with clarity. It gives us a window to the universe. We are protected in this pocket of emptiness, a clear, quiet clearing in the dusty forest of the Milky Way. As we drift through this clear bubble, we must orient ourselves, up, down, left, right. These concepts work on Earth, but in space, orientation is everything. We tend to picture the solar system as a flat plate moving forward like a frisbee, but relative to the galaxy, we are tipped. Visualize the Milky Way as a flat, spinning pancake of stars. Now, picture our solar system's flat disk. We're not aligned with the galaxy. We are tilted at a steep angle of about 60 degrees. We're not moving edge-on through the galaxy. We're moving belly first, or perhaps forehead first, depending on how you visualize the tilt. The planets loop around the sun at a steep diagonal to the stream of stars around us. This skew makes our journey feel more dynamic, less like a car on a road, and more like a sailboat listing in the wind. We are cutting across the grain of the galactic traffic, a tilted family of worlds tumbling through the star currents at a jaunty, defiant angle. And where exactly are we going with this tilted posture? The sun is not wandering aimlessly, it has a destination. We are moving toward a specific point in the sky known as the solar apex. Turn your gaze to the constellation Hercules, near the bright star Vega. This is the direction of our travel. We are speeding toward this point at 45,000 miles per hour relative to the local stars. Visualize the bow of a great ship cutting through the waves. The solar apex is the prow of our solar system. As we move, the stars in front of us appear to spread apart slightly, just as trees separate as you drive toward them. while the stars behind us near Orion appear to bunch together. It is a subtle, slow-motion warp effect. We will never reach Vega, for it is moving too, but it serves as our lighthouse for now. We are on a grand voyage to the smooth, silent music of gravity, headed endlessly toward a horizon that retreats as fast as we approach it. Finally, we let the external wonders fade, the blue sunsets, the ghostly rings, the tilted orbits, and we turn our gaze inward to the very substance that allows you to dream these images. You're lying on a bed, breathing air, your heart beating a rhythm of life. But ask yourself, where did the atoms in your body come from? The hydrogen in the water of your cells was born in the Big Bang, the very first moment of time. But the carbon in your DNA, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, and the oxygen in your lungs, these did not exist at the beginning. They were forged in the nuclear furnaces of stars that lived and died long before the sun was born. Visualize an ancient star, massive and bright, collapsing at the end of its life and exploding in a supernova, scattering its enriched guts across the cosmos. This dust drifted for aeons, eventually clumping together to form the Earth, and eventually, you. You're not in the universe, you are the universe. You're a way for the cosmos to know itself. Every beat of your heart is a chemical reaction made possible by the sacrifice of ancient suns. To sleep now is to rest a body made of stardust, a collection of atoms that has travelled through the vacuum, endured the fire and found a brief, beautiful moment of consciousness in the quiet dark of the solar system. Resting in the knowledge that our very bodies are composed of the same ancient dust that forms the planets. We begin to perceive our movement through the galaxy not as a straight line, but as a rhythmic, undulating wave. We are not merely circling the centre of the Milky Way on a flat plane. We're bobbing up and down like a horse on a grand cosmic carousel. Visualize this wave motion. As the sun carries us through the spiral arms, we slowly rise above the dense starry disk of the galaxy, peaking in the emptiness of the galactic halo before gravity gently pulls us back down. We dive through the crowded plane, a region thick with gas and stars, and sink below it, only to rise again. This is a cycle of immense duration. It takes roughly 30 to 40 million years to complete a single oscillation. It is a slow, hypnotic breathing of the solar system, rising and falling in the deep ocean of the Milky Way. As we pass through the dense mid-plane, the skies would be richer with stars, and the risk of encountering cosmic dust clouds increases. We are currently near this mid-plane, riding the crest of the wave. To feel this motion is to understand that we are surfing the galactic tides, rising and dipping in a majestic, slow-motion slumber that spans epochs of geological time. As we ride this galactic wave, we often think of the Earth as a solitary wanderer, accompanied only by the moon. But hidden in the shadows of gravity, dancing a shy, complex waltz with our world, is another companion. This is Cruithne, often called Earth's second moon, though it is truly a co-orbital asteroid. Visualize a small, mountain-sized rock that does not circle the Earth in a simple loop, but traces a magnificent horseshoe shape relative to us. It is caught in a gravitational resonance, a perfect balance where it takes exactly 1 year to orbit the Sun, just like us. But because its path is slightly more elliptical, it drifts back and forth. Imagine a partner in a ballroom dance who mirrors your steps but never touches you. For decades, Cruithne drifts closer to Earth, appearing to chase us, until it gets too close. Then, the Earth's gravity gives it a gentle push, flinging it into a slower orbit where it falls behind. Years later, it catches up from the other side, and the dance repeats. It is a celestial game of tag that has been playing out for thousands of years. It never collides, never threatens. It simply shares our lane on the solar highway. A silent, invisible friend tracing a kidney bean shape in the nothingness, forever respecting the personal space of the blue planet. Drifting inward from the path of our shy companion, we return to the searing proximity of the Sun to witness a phenomenon usually reserved for comets. We float toward Mercury, the iron planet. We see its cratered grey surface baking in the heat, but if we look with special filters, we see that this rock is bleeding light. Mercury has a tail. Visualize a stream of sodium atoms blasting off the surface of the planet, pushed back by the intense pressure of sunlight and the solar wind. This is not a tail of ice and dust, but of glowing yellow-orange gas. It stretches away from the Sun for millions of miles, a ghostly windsock indicating the direction of the solar storm. The Sun is stripping the planet's surface atom by atom, creating a thin, ephemeral atmosphere that is constantly being lost to space. If you could stand on the night side of Mercury and look up, you might see a faint auroral glow, a yellow haze where the sodium is dancing in the magnetic fields. It transforms the image of Mercury from a dead rock into a comet-like wanderer, leaving a trail of its own substance in the dark, a golden wake fading into the vacuum. Leaving the golden tail of the innermost planet, we let the solar wind carry us outward again, past the giants, to the Lord of the Rings. We have admired the icy splendour of Saturn's rings, but now we witness their slow, sorrowful demise. The rings are not permanent, they are a temporary adornment, a fleeting vastness of ice that is slowly falling apart. Visualize the ring rain. Under the influence of Saturn's magnetic field, the tiny ice crystals are charged electrically. They are pulled from their stable orbits and guided along magnetic lines, spiralling down into the planet's atmosphere. It is a silent, endless precipitation. Tons of water ice are dumping into Saturn's clouds every second, enough to fill an Olympic swimming pool every half hour. This water reacts with the ionosphere, chemically changing the upper atmosphere of the giant. In your dream, watch this slow dissolution. The rings are eroding, vanishing drop by drop, grain by grain. In 100 million years, a short time for the universe, they may be gone entirely, leaving Saturn as bare as Jupiter. You're witnessing a specific, beautiful moment in the planet's life, a time of glory that is slowly washing away into the clouds below. From the vanishing rings of Saturn, we descend to its largest moon, Titan, to experience a texture unlike anything on Earth. We have visited its methane lakes, but now we walk the vast equatorial deserts. These are fields of dunes that stretch for hundreds of miles, rising hundreds of feet into the orange twilight. But this is not sand. It is not ground up rock or silica. Visualize picking up a handful of this material. It is light, fluffy, and soft, composed of dark organic hydrocarbon grains, essentially plastic soot that has fallen from the sky and clumped together. Because of the low gravity and the static electricity in the dry atmosphere, the grains cling to each other. The dunes do not crumble, they stick. Imagine a landscape of dark, coffee-coloured drifts that feel like styrofoam or static charged wool. They are shaped by the wind of Saturn's gravitational tides as much as by the air. It is a silent, soft world where the ground absorbs sound, creating a muffled, velvet quietude. To walk here would be to wade through a sea of organic snow, leaving deep tracks in the dark, soft memory of the moon. Drifting further into the cold, we approach the tilted giant, Uranus, to uncover a secret hidden in the dark. We know Saturn has bright, glorious rings, but Uranus possesses a ring system that is the spectral opposite. They are there, encircling the planet, but they are darker than fresh asphalt, darker than charcoal. Visualize drifting through this stealthy ring system. The particles are not made of reflective water ice, but of radiation-darkened organic molecules and rock. They swallow the light. You could be floating just a few miles away from them and see nothing but the starry background. Only when you drift incredibly close do they block out the stars, appearing as narrow, terrifying ribbons of absolute blackness against the black sky. They are narrow and sharp, held in place by small shepherd moons that are equally dark. It is a minimalist beauty, a study in negative space. Where Saturn is a shout of light, Uranus is a wisper of shadow. These rings are the ancient dusty skeletons of moons that were destroyed long ago, grinding against each other in the dark, invisible to all but the most searching eyes. Further out still, in the realm of Neptune, we return to the captured moon, Triton. We have seen its retrograde orbit, but now we descend to look at the surface, a landscape of frozen nitrogen that looks like the skin of a cantaloupe. Here, in the coldest reaches of the system, the ground erupts. Visualize the cryovolcanoes of Triton. The sun is weak, but it is enough to penetrate the translucent layer of nitrogen ice, heating the dark material beneath. The pressure builds until, whoosh, a jet of nitrogen gas bursts through the crust, shooting 5 miles into the thin atmosphere. It carries with it dark, carbon-rich dust. Because the atmosphere is so thin, the plume shoots straight up, smooth and pillar-like, until it hits a layer of high-altitude wind. Then it bends 90 degrees, trailing off horizontally for nearly 100 miles. Picture a pinkish-white ice sheet scarred with these long black streaks, like brushstrokes of ink on parchment. It is a silent, slow-motion industrial zone of nature, where the heat of the distant sun powers a geological engine that paints the face of the moon with the soot of its own interior. Beyond Neptune, beyond Triton, beyond Pluto, we glide toward the edge of the scattered disk, expecting the debris to continue forever. But then, we encounter a mystery. The number of icy rocks drops off precipitously. This is the Kuiper Cliff. Visualize floating at the edge of a dense forest, where the trees suddenly stop and a vast open plain begins. Astronomers expected the belt of asteroids to fade away gradually, but instead it ends abruptly at a distance of about 50 astronomical units from the Sun. It is a sharp, jagged edge to the known population of worlds. Why? Some dreamers believe a hidden planet the size of Mars or Earth swept this region clear, acting like a broom in the dark. Others think it is a natural resonance, a gravitational echo of the early solar system's expansion. Whatever the cause, to float here is to stand at the true precipice. Behind you lies the clutter and chaos of the solar family. Ahead lies the deep, unpopulated void, the true gap between us and the stars. It is the shoreline of our cosmic island, the point where the water gets deep and the map goes blank. As we stare out into that blank void, we realize that our entire solar system, the sun, the planets, the cliff, the comets, is not just drifting aimlessly. We're being pulled. We're flowing like a droplet of water in a massive invisible river. This is the flow toward the great attractor. Zoom your mind's eye out until the Milky Way is just a speck of light. We are part of a supercluster of galaxies called Laniakea, which means immeasurable heaven. Within this structure, thousands of galaxies are sliding through the universe, drawn by an unimaginable mass hundreds of millions of light years away. Visualize the gravity of this great attractor as a gentle slope in the fabric of space-time. We are sliding down it. We are not static. We are on a voyage across the intergalactic void, moving at over 1 million miles per hour toward a meeting point we will likely never reach. It gives a sense of grand, interconnected purpose. We are part of a galactic watershed, a tributary flowing into a cosmic ocean, guided by the heavy hand of gravity across distances that defy the human mind. Finally, we contract our vision from the supercluster back to the solitary, beating heart of our own system to witness its ultimate destiny. We look billions of years into the future, past the red giant phase where the sun swells and swallows the inner worlds, to the moment of final peace. The outer layers have drifted away, forming a colourful planetary nebula, a flower of gas blooming in the void. What remains in the centre is the white dwarf. Visualise a sphere the size of the Earth, but containing half the mass of the Sun. It is no longer burning fuel. The nuclear fire has gone out. It is simply a glowing ember, radiating its stored heat into the universe. It is incredibly dense, a diamond in the rough. As it cools over trillions of years, the carbon and oxygen within it will crystallize. The sun will become a single, colossal diamond, a crystal sphere hanging silently in the dark. It will be a monument to the light it once gave, a cold, beautiful jewel marking the spot where life once flourished. This is not a death to be feared, but a transformation into stillness. It is the final, serene state of the star, a perfect, crystalline slumber that will last until the end of time. From that distant future vision of the crystalline diamond star, resting in the eternal silence of the end of time, we allow our minds to drift all the way back to the very beginning. We return to the nursery where our star was born. We often think of the sun as a solitary entity, a lonely king ruling a system of planets, but it was not always alone. It was born in a crowded, chaotic and beautiful cluster, surrounded by thousands of brothers and sisters. Visualize a vast, glowing nebula, a cloud of gas and dust lit from within by the ignition of thousands of new stars. In this cosmic cradle, our sun awakened alongside siblings, all forged from the same cloud of matter, all sharing the same chemical fingerprint. For millions of years they danced together, a tight-knit family of light in the dark arm of the galaxy. But the galaxy is a restless place. Over the aeons, the gravity of passing clouds and the rotation of the Milky Way slowly unraveled the cluster. The family was drifted apart, scattered to the winds of the spiral arms. Somewhere out there, perhaps in the constellation of Hercules or Cygnus, shines a star that is the sun's identical twin. Looking up at the night sky, you may have unknowingly gazed upon a sibling of our home star, a lost brother drifting in the vast ocean of the night. It brings a sense of deep, cosmic connection to realize that our sun is part of a diaspora, a scattered family of light that spans the galaxy, each living its own life, separated by the insurmountable gulf of space and time. Occasionally the solitude of our solar system is broken not by a sibling, but by a stranger passing in the night. We turn our attention to the dark space between the stars where objects drift untethered to any sun. These are the interstellar travelers, the nomads of the galaxy. We recently witnessed one such visitor, an object that came from the deep void, plunged through our system and left without stopping. Visualize a dark, reddish object, shaped strangely like a long, tumbling cigar or a flattened shard of rock. It had been drifting in the interstellar silence for millions of years, moving through the emptiness where there is no light and no heat. As it entered our solar system, it tumbled end over end, a silent, spinning needle threading the planetary orbits. It did not behave like a comet. It had no tail, no coma, only a dry, rocky surface that had been baked by cosmic rays until it turned the colour of dried blood. It passed close to the sun, accelerated by gravity, and then shot back out into the dark, moving too fast to be captured. It was a brief encounter with the unknown, a silent ship passing in the cosmic night. To think of it is to feel the vastness of the traffic in the galaxy. We are not in a sealed room, we are in an open ocean, and sometimes driftwood from other shores floats by, bringing with it the silent stories of distant alien stars. This sense of movement and drift applies not only to the visitors, but to the planets themselves. We tend to picture the solar system as a static map, with Jupiter forever in the 5th orbit and Mars in the 4th. But in the dream time of the early solar system, the giants were wanderers. This is the concept of the grand tack. Visualize the young Jupiter, bloated and massive, forming in the gas-rich nebula. Instead of staying put, it began to spiral inward, drawn toward the sun by the drag of the gas. Imagine this colossal planet ploughing through the solar system, like a massive ship entering a harbour, scattering small asteroids and planetesimals in its wake. It moved as far in as the orbit of Mars, clearing the space, perhaps even destroying an early generation of inner planets. Then, captured by a gravitational resonance with forming Saturn, it tacked like a sailboat catching the wind, reversing its course and migrating back outward to its current home. This migration shaped everything we know. It is why Mars is small. Jupiter stole its building blocks. It is why the asteroid belt exists. The solar system is not a pristine clockwork mechanism. It is a landscape scarred by the movement of giants, a settled aftermath of a chaotic, wandering youth where the planets roamed the dark before finding their grooves. Drifting away from the wandering history of the giants, we descend now to the icy shell of one of Jupiter's current moons, Europa. We've imagined the ocean beneath, but now we look at the surface, specifically at a region known as the chaos terrain. The name itself invites a vision of beautiful disorder. Picture a vast puzzle made of ice. In these regions, the smooth white plains have been shattered into blocks, tilted, rotated and frozen back together. It looks like a fleet of icebergs trapped in a frozen sea, or a stained glass window made of glaciers. Visualize the process that created this. The warm ocean below surged up, melting the crust, causing the solid ice to break apart and float freely for a time, drifting on a slushy sea. Then, as the heat subsided, the water refroze, locking the jumbled blocks in place forever. The sunlight here is weak, casting long, sharp shadows across the broken ridges. The ice is tinged with reddish-brown minerals, salts from the deep ocean that have been blasted by Jupiter's radiation. It is a frozen photograph of motion, a testament to the fact that the solid ground is merely a thin skin over a living, breathing abyss. It feels fragile, complex, and hauntingly beautiful, a shattered mirror reflecting the cold light of the giant planet. From the shattering cold of Europa, we transport our consciousness inward to the stifling, crushing atmosphere of Venus. We have spoken of the heat, but the geology here takes on shapes found nowhere else. On the plains of this oven world, we find the pancake domes. Visualize a landscape of grey, basaltic rock, bathed in the sickly yellow light of the clouds. Rising from the flatness are strange circular plateaus. They're perfectly round, flat-topped and steep-sided, looking exactly like giant pancakes or drops of batter on a griddle, each one 15 miles wide. These are volcanoes, but they are unlike the explosive cones of Earth or the towering shields of Mars. The lava here was thick, viscous and pasty, oozing out under the immense pressure of the atmosphere. It didn't flow, it spread. It pushed outward in a slow, heavy sludge, building up these flat cakes of stone before cooling. Standing there, you would feel the weight of the air, 90 times heavier than Earth's, pressing down on these stone domes. They are monuments to a slow, suffocating eruption, rising from the haze like ancient flat altars built by the geology of a world where the air itself is a heavy blanket. Leaving the heavy, stagnant air of Venus, we return to the Earth. But we look at a part of our home that is invisible to the naked eye. Surrounding our planet, extending outward for thousands of miles, is a vast, cold donut of charged particles known as the plasmasphere. Visualize this structure as a second atmosphere, one made not of air but of plasma, electrons and ions trapped by Earth's magnetic field. It rotates with the Earth, a great invisible inner tube encircling the planet. During the day, the sun's energy fills this region with plasma from the ionosphere, inflating it like a balloon. At night, the plasma erodes away, flowing out into space. It is a breathing, dynamic reservoir. Imagine floating inside this torus. It is completely transparent, yet it is full of matter. It creates a bridge between the atmosphere we breathe and the vacuum of the magnetosphere. It is a cozy, protective zone, a dense, cold fog of electricity that hugs the equator, moving in perfect sync with the rotation of the continents below, a hidden halo of energy that wraps the world in a silent embrace. On the surface of the Earth below this plasma halo, a ceaseless chase is taking place. We turn our attention to the line that separates day from night, the terminator. We often think of sunset as a gentle, slow event, but in reality, this line is racing across the planet at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. Visualize this grey line rushing across the oceans and continents. To the east of the line, it is night. To the west, it is day. Inside the band of the Terminator, the world is painted in the colours of twilight. Deep indigo, violet, and gold. If you could fly an airplane at exactly the speed of the Earth's rotation, travelling west, you could live in this sunset forever. You would hang suspended in the eternal golden hour, the sun forever kissing the horizon, never rising, never setting. This line is the moving edge of time. It sweeps over cities, waking millions of people while putting millions of others to sleep, a continuous wave of consciousness and rest circling the globe. It reminds us that time of day is merely our position relative to this sweeping shadow, a fleeting alignment in the geometry of spin. We cast our gaze now from the twilight of Earth to the darkness of the moon to find a specific man-made sparkle in the dust. Scattered across the lunar surface, left behind by the astronauts of the Apollo missions and unmanned rovers, are arrays of retroreflectors. These are essentially high-tech mirrors, designed to reflect light exactly back to its source. Visualize a small panel, the size of a suitcase, sitting silently in the dusty regolith of the Sea of Tranquility. It has no power source, no moving parts. It simply sits and waits. On Earth, scientists fire a powerful laser beam at the moon. The beam travels 239,000 miles, spreading out as it goes. A tiny fraction of that light hits the mirror panels. They bounce it back, through the vacuum, through the Earth's atmosphere, to be caught by a telescope. This pulse of light is a heartbeat connecting the two worlds. It allows us to measure the distance to the moon with the precision of a millimetre. In your dream, visualize this invisible beam of green light stretching through the darkness, a tether of photons binding the Earth and its satellite. It is a silent conversation of light, a reflection that confirms over and over that we are here and the moon is there, locked in our gravitational dance. Drifting further outward to the south pole of Mars, we encounter a seasonal phenomenon that looks organic, almost alive, but is purely geological. As the Martian winter fades and the spring sun strikes the pole, the ice cap, made of frozen carbon dioxide, begins to sublime. It turns from solid to gas instantly, but this happens underneath the ice. Visualize a slab of clear dry ice covering the red ground. The sunlight passes through the ice, warming the dark soil below. The trapped gas builds up pressure, like steam in a kettle, until it cracks the ice surface. Whoosh. The gas erupts in a geyser, carrying dark, sandy dust with it. This dust falls back to the surface in spidery radial patterns. From orbit, they look like thousands of black spiders crawling across the white ice. These are the araniforms. Imagine the sound of these vents hissing in the thin air, the dark dust spraying out to paint these alien hieroglyphs on the polar cap. It is a landscape of active, gardening geology, where the sun wakes the ground from its frozen slumber, creating art that vanishes with the summer heat, only to be drawn again next year. Finally, we pull back to visualize the shape of the magnetic environment we live in. The sun, as it spins, drags its magnetic field out into the solar system. Because the sun rotates, the magnetic field lines do not travel in straight lines. They twist. This forms a massive architectural structure known as the Parker spiral. Visualize a ballerina spinning in a long flowing skirt. As she twirls, the fabric ripples and spirals outward. The sun is the dancer, and the magnetic field is the skirt. This spiral fills the entire solar system. The planets do not just orbit in empty space, they swim through these rippled sheets of magnetism. The Earth, Mars, Jupiter, they all pass through the folds of this spiral. It is the texture of the heliosphere. When solar storms travel, they follow these curved roads, sliding along the spiral arms like cars on a highway. To see this is to see the grain of the wood in the solar system, the underlying fabric of force that dictates how energy flows. It is a vast, beautiful, twisting nautilus shell of magnetism, holding us all in its curved, protective chambers as we spin together through the dark. And following the twisting, invisible curves of that great magnetic spiral, we drift to the very edge of our journey, to the final realization that binds all these wonders together. We have explored the fires of the sun, the ice of the outer rim, the storms of the giants, and the silence of the void. But the most profound wonder of our solar system is not a planet, nor a moon, nor a star. It is a single, pixelated speck of light seen from the edge of the abyss. Visualize the view from 4 billion miles away, looking back toward the center. Amidst the scattered rays of the sun, caught in a single beam of light, floats a tiny, pale blue dot. It is smaller than a grain of dust on your window pane. It is almost imperceptible against the vastness of the dark. Yet, that speck is everything. That speck is the only place in all the miles we have traversed where eyes exist to see the stars, and where minds exist to wonder about them. The ultimate fact of our solar system is that it is not merely a collection of dead rocks and gas. It is a system that eventually woke up. Think of the carbon in the asteroids, the water in the comets, the heat of the sun, and the stability of Jupiter. All of these forces conspired over billions of years to create a delicate blue garden where the universe could become conscious of itself. You're not a stranger observing the system, you are the system observing itself. The atoms in your eyes were forged in the same fires as the silicon in the rocks of Mars. The water in your cells is the same ice that rings Saturn. When you look up at the night sky, it is like looking into a mirror. The solar system has created a way to dream, and right now, in this quiet moment, you are that dream. The beauty of the rings, the majesty of the storms, and the silence of the vacuum only possess meaning because you are here to witness them. You are the custodian of the beauty, the memory of the stars, the feeling heart of the machine. The universe is vast and dark and lonely, but on this one blue dot, it has found a way to feel warmth, to feel love, and to feel peace. And now, the journey is complete. The vast distances we have travelled begin to fold gently in on themselves. The great gas giants with their swirling storms and diamond rains fade into the velvet background. The icy moons with their hidden oceans and silent geysers drift away into the mist of memory. The raging fire of the sun dims to a soft, comforting ember, a warm glow that resides within your chest. You're no longer floating in the void. You're returning to the sanctuary of your own being. Feel the gravity of the earth reclaiming you, not as a force of weight, but as an embrace of safety. It pulls you down into the softness of your bed, anchoring you here in this quiet room, in this quiet night. The darkness of space becomes the comforting darkness behind your closed eyes. The silence of the vacuum becomes the peaceful silence of your mind. There is nothing left to explore, nothing left to learn, nothing left to do. The planets will continue their majestic, silent dance without you, spinning in perfect harmony, watched over by the steady light of the sun. You can let them go. You can let the rotation of the earth carry you into the shadows. Your breathing is slow and deep, echoing the rhythm of the tides, the rhythm of the oscillating waves of the galaxy. Every breath is a release. Every heartbeat is a tick of the cosmic clock, slowing down, slower and slower. The images of the journey, the blue sunsets, the golden rings, the diamond stars, are melting together into a warm, heavy blanket of tranquility. They are no longer thoughts, they are just feelings. Heavy, warm, safe feelings. You're drifting on the river of starlight, but now the river is flowing into the ocean of sleep. The current is gentle, the water is still. You are safe in the heart of the universe, held by the ancient gravity of rest. Everything is in its place, everything is well, and now 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now, good night.